Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome along to this latest round of the Creator Series here on Twitch. My name is Daniel Gilligan. I am the B team today, as George Morgan is not joining us, but someone who's very much A team is alongside me in the virtual commentary box, and that is Badgerman. Badgerman, how the devil are you doing, sir? I'm very good. I'm very surprised that I was asked, to be honest. I'm a nuisance. I don't really know whose idea this was other than Dirk. So I don't know. Maybe he's decided that risks needed taking today with George out and about. But yes, here we are then. So on the Creator Series, we're here, of course, at Abu Dhabi today, despite what the top right of the current screen might be telling you. And with Abu Dhabi, then, of course, it's this reprofiled version of the circuit that we've got these days. Couple of areas where maybe some questionable things are going on in terms of game physics and things like that, but it's overall a bit more of a fun circuit than it was in prior games, I think.
Should see plenty of action as well. Overtaking, obviously, being a lot easier around here than it is around most other circuits. And I think the drivers have already loaded in. So the deal is, as always, and apparently I'm muted on the Creator Series channel.
I've just changed that. You see, everything was set up to default in the sound settings, and so I've only just realised it when I was looking down, seeing he's talking, but all the lights aren't switching on. That's really bizarre. That's really weird. But there we go then. So that's all working now, everybody. But what we can do then is we can go on into the race screen because we of course got our first car starting to go out onto the circuit, and this one is Safso. Now we've got to get rid of all of this then, and hopefully any moment now SimHub's going to start doing its thing.
Yeah, it usually takes a bit to do that. I need to do some things for the data channel as well. For the first time actually today, we not only have obviously this broadcast, but on my channel over on twitch.tv/Badgerman, we also have the data channel, so you can see all the information about all the 20 drivers that are in the race here today. I'm gonna have to sort this out a little bit, very, very briefly, because some of the names didn't load, and that is obviously quite annoying because nobody knows who 158003 134 is, but that would be Flexi.
Excellent.
Who is, I think, making his debut here today.
Well, what a time to do it when you've got everybody who clearly knows what they're doing here in the presenting booth here today. They can get their debut as a series of strings of numbers if they so fancy. But yeah, we've got one McLaren out on circuit then in the moment, and another McLaren who's going to be wanting to add to their win tally today, I would imagine too.
We definitely do. One McLaren that wants to add to his win tally that is already quite impressive this season. That would be Tiamat Marduk. He is currently on, I think, 4 wins. Is 3 or 4 wins. He's done a lot. Every race that Alex Gillen wasn't here for, basically, Benjamin Daly has won. So he's in incredible form. And after a first season of the Creator Series where we had no driver winning 2 races or more, now all of a sudden it's just domination by these 2 rivals that have gone through their co-op career through 3 seasons of that, and now here in the Creator Series they just show that when you do a co-op career against each other, you're both pushing each other to that high of a level, all of a sudden everyone else just dwarves in comparison.
Absolutely, yeah, and it is one of those things. I mean, it's a bit like when you look at movies, for example. There's the phrase, of course, that any hero is only as good as their villain, and in a similar sense, it's absolutely right. You know, we look at sport, we look at Formula One, we look at here in the Creator Series space and other spaces on Twitch and YouTube and that sort of thing. It is when you get those good rivalries going, where people are able to push one another constantly. That's where you then end up seeing a great deal of improvement there. You know, it tends to be that in times of conflict, things are far more. Far quicker in terms of their overall improvement, shall we say. But yeah, so this then is looking like an okay lap from Safso then. I've got the intermediate tyres on, of course, for the first run, because, you know, it's always at risk of rain here in the desert. But across the line they come then. They will be first, as the first one to go out there and do a lap, regardless of what tyre it's set on. It's 129.1. I have a sneaking suspicion we may just get quicker times than that over the course of this session.
Yeah, I have a slight suspicion as well that we're going to get better than that. Right now, we've got Jurgen van Geffen, JJ van Geffen. He's changing his names more than some people change their underwear, quite frankly. But no, he's on a purple first sector right now. Middle sector's okay with the 36.9, not quite. Purple there, and final sector he comes around to go into P1 with the 28.7. The intermediate championship is alive and well, and there's more drivers coming around. Mr. Dale, I think that's a driver we need to talk about. Mr. Dale, the most unlucky driver, I think, in the Creator Series. I don't think he's finished a race so far this season, but he's purple in the middle sector right now. He's getting through the final sector. Did he invalidate that? I don't think he did. He played with the track limits there, but they didn't bite him. 28.6 on the intermediate tire, so he's now taking the lead in the intermediate championship. And a couple more drivers to come around the circuit. We've got Hayden Gullis. We've got, just Hun on softs going purple in the first sector, but that's a bit unfair. Meraki, however, on inters, went purple in the first sector for just a moment.
Yeah, it's interesting, is it, when you do end up seeing something like this on the screen there, where we've got inter. But of course, with us doing a Q1, 2, and 3 format, that's then where things are going to be thrown around a little bit here. And who should we take a look at now at the moment, do you reckon? I'm thinking we've got a Ferrari out there on circuit at the moment that's just completed their outlap and has started to cross the line.
That would be just Banale in P8 right now. Is he listed? And yeah, he is certainly. Whoa! Yep, that's the intermediate tires in the dry for you. However, I can tell you from a bit of experience, seeing just Banale throughout the season, that's also how he drives on proper tires in the dry and in the wet. To be fair, he is always a bit on the edge. He's always a driver who really just maximizes his setup, not necessarily for drivability, but for time. And I can tell you, for the drivers behind, they're always a bit worried for him. I remember Tiamat Marduk in one of his videos of the Creator Series where he participated, and he was sort of stuck behind this one, Ali. He was very worried for Ali a lot of times, where he's got these slight snap oversteers, and yeah, it's not something you necessarily want to see. As just Han went P1 with a 26.0. That is on soft tires, not the intermediates as everyone else. So take that time with a grain of salt. I think we're going to get significantly better lap times here for this Q1.
I would certainly hope so. It will make things a bit more interesting as we get in towards the end then. So just one ale comes round the final turn and doesn't come round the final turn. Comes inside the final turn and goes into the pits instead. So there we go then. No time for them. As we now wait and see then what is going to happen elsewhere in this session. Now we've got a few cars then still on outlaps. We've got Tom, for example, in the Alpine, and that's not going to be at all confusing that we've also got Tom in the Alpine. In this particular case, it's Tom 97 who's out on their outlap at the moment. Because they haven't set a time yet, I'm having to now count down the list to try and figure out which one they are. I'm going to guess that one. Oh, what a guess! So, as we see them go through turn number 1 then, let's take you through on board on a lap of Abu Dhabi then. So through turn number 2 and up towards 3 then. Big long corners here, and again you can see those intermediate tyres on the car, so a bit of a loose back end on this particular car around this lap, and it's not going to be setting the timing screen to light as far as those on the softs are concerned, but certainly this is looking a decent time when compared to other intermediate runners that are out there at the moment. Fastest intermediate runner at the moment, well, that's actually the driver who just slotted themselves up into second place on a 1:28.1, so 2 seconds off the pace that's currently being set on those softs, and we'll wait and see whether or not this is then going to end up shaping out as a quicker or slower lap from Tom 97. Green flag on the circuit then after a brief moment somewhere for somebody, as we've got 9.5 minutes left to go in this session as we now power out through the chicane and down this great big long DRS straight and into the big long left-hander then as part of this re-profile part of the circuit. Bit wide of the apex there, but then cutting back on exit to try and get a bit of a V-shaped line through the corner, and then through this constantly tightening series of right-handers before you then got to be turning, whilst then going into the braking zone, make it through these slow corners, where these cars in particular do not like these sorts of slow corners. They're very lazy, very heavy, when you compare them certainly to cars of yesteryear. Through the last couple of corners we go then, and Tom, 97, no purple sectors so far, but it's been at least 2 decent sectors from them. And where are they going to put this Alpine? It's P8, in amongst some drivers who have gone out there on soft tyres already.
Yeah, P8, and what I noticed in the final sector, his red light in the rear of the car started flashing, so either he stopped using battery entirely, or he got down to below 10% and ran out of battery before the end of the lap, so that certainly cost him a little bit there. I think P7 at the very least would have been possible without that, but we've got curbs in the Williams going up to P1 on the soft tyres here, 24.5 with a purple final sector to boot. First and second sector were not quite purple because JJ Van Heffen on the soft tyres, he's on soft tyres now in the Alfa Romeo. He is flying around the circuit, purple first, purple second, and it will be a purple third sector and a 23.7. Now that, I think, is the first statement that we are going to see here in Q1.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a great time there to slot in on the board. 8 tenths quicker, as you rightly say, and as we saw on screen there, that's a real great improvement there that we've seen from them, especially after then acclimatizing to those soft tyres after their initial run done on those intermediates. So there we go then. They take the next few corners then. Anybody else that we should be taking a look at? Well, possibly Mr. Marduk himself, currently on an outlap, and as we switch over to him, he just gives us a little bit of a flair by going off of the circuit slightly. He's just practicing the Hamilton line, right? Through that particular corner. But there we go then. So let's keep an eye then. So as you rightly pointed out earlier on, Ben, of course, on a great run of form, having gotten a bunch of race wins whenever Alex Gillen has not been around. And so in terms of that then, how do you fare the chances of those two in this next part of this season?
Well, I mean, Hayden Gold, sorry, just saw his name. Alex Gillen isn't here today either, so that certainly helps Chemit Marduk. But you got to make him the favorite. You got to make him the favorite for this race today. He has been so consistent. He's put himself in the right places. He's started to figure out the ideal strategy for the Creator Series. And so I think Chemit Marduk is going to be the driver to beat here for today.
Well, there we are then, folks. That's a bold prediction there in the chat. And with any more moments like that through turn number 2, then it might be that he goes out in Q1. Down towards the end of the first sector then, and 1.4 seconds down, though, of course, as we say, that's not something that we need to be reading too much into, given that they are on those intermediate tyres. But, given that they're on those inters, do you want to be risking it quite so much and getting quite a oversteery happy moment there at the back end of the car?
No, this is the moment right now for him to really think about how much the intermediate championship is worth. And the answer should be not that much. Not your whole qualifying and potentially your whole race, really. So, yeah, I think that's probably a moment that gave him a bit of worry that the car stepped out that much. And I think he's going to take it a bit more safely now through the remaining part of the lap. And yeah, you can tell by the sector times, if we compare that to, for example, Meraki's lap, first sector 3 tenths down, middle sector a second down, so he's lost 1.3 seconds so far over the course of this lap to Meraki, who's in P10. So I think this will be P14 at best, and he actually aborts the lap. And I think he slightly held up FTR Spinella, who was still able to make it to P7, but won't be happy with that because he almost ran into the back there of Chemit Marduk. Chemit Marduk had to run off the circuit to let FTR Spinella through on his debut as well. FTR Spinella here today. So Flexi in P16, not the only driver to celebrate his first race in the Creator Series.
Absolutely not, no, and it's been good to see fresh talent coming in over the course of the season. Of course, not the exact same grid as we saw at the start of the season, of course, and with it chopping and changing all the time, we've seen new creators coming in, getting the chance to show off their skills and grow their audience and all that sort of thing. It's been great to see, and some good battles that we've seen in and around the field as well. So then, Anybody that you feel like we should be taking a bit of a closer dive at? I'm personally thinking that driver currently in 13th, Tom, currently on an outlap on the intermediate tyres, it seems. Outlap, rather, not an in-lap. And, well, maybe they're not worth looking at then. Currently then...
Yeah, it's Dirk. Dirk has just spun, caused the yellow flag. That is in the Latifi corner, in the left-hander that Nicholas Latifi caused that safety car around here. Those who remember. Really, everyone does. Whether you remember it fondly or not, that's obviously a different question, but I think everybody remembers that moment. And Dirk aborts his lap. That was actually quite a decent lap up to that point. Would have been, I think, good enough for possibly a top 7, top 8. I think he would have been ahead of FTR Spinella, just battling with Safso, Kerbs, Razin Chai, Vince, and Mr. Dale. Would have been a decent lap, but he threw it away. And with that, I think he also threw away a set of the soft tires that isn't going to be as good anymore. So very, very unfortunate there for Dirk indeed. Meanwhile, I just saw a little yellow dot on my track map here. That means there's a car out there on medium tires, and that is Meraki.
There certainly is.
I understand the intermediate championship. I don't understand going out on medium tires because you want those tires to be as fresh as possible for the race. You only get a maximum of 2 sets of mediums, and you want both of them to be as fresh as they possibly can be. And Meraki right now is making sure that one of those sets is not going to be as fresh as possible.
Could it potentially be that, given that, of course, this is a full Q1, 2, 3 session, that they might be thinking to themselves, you know what, I can get into Q3 here today. I'm actually feeling confident enough and fast enough to go for that, and then as a result, wanting to keep a set of softs for later on, possibly.
Well, for sure, but at the same time, Meraki is someone who has featured very heavily in Q3 this season. He's scored multiple pole positions over the course of the season so far, so he's definitely someone who thinks about Q3 already, but Q3 is not where you score points. You score points in the race, and so for Meraki to now say, well, I'd rather have an extra set of softs in Q3, it doesn't really make sense to me because you're taking away a set of medium tires for the race, or it's at least slightly disadvantageous for you in the race. You're going to lose a bit of time to everyone else switching onto that set of mediums, and you're going to have that set likely, if you use it, which I think is likely, you're going to use it towards the end of the race. You're not going to use that set. That's not going to be the first one you switch on to, because you can't. The game will put you onto the new mediums first. So again, I don't understand that call unless, and this is the only scenario in which this would work, Meraki is trying to go either a 2-stop with 2 sets of soft tires in the race, which is quite risky in and of itself, or even go 3-stop, which is a possible but obviously highly risky strategy around here.
Very risky indeed, especially if a safety car comes out to start to throw some jeopardy into the mix and so on. But I'm sure that we will get a good bit of action regardless when we get to the race in here. We've seen what's gone on, especially with the small car crash of many cars really in Spa, and so it's definitely within the realms of possibility, shall we say, that these things end up happening as they have done. We've got yellow flags out everywhere then at the moment. We've got 13th for Meraki, and so that then is them reasonably safe for the time being. But that being said, all it needs is for a good couple of laps or so from those, or good lap I should say, from those currently out there. I mean, this driver for instance, Dirk Chocolate, currently coming through
right now, but 2 decent sectors so far. The first and the middle, 17.9 and 36.0. Is it enough? It is enough to push Meraki down. P11 right now for Dirk, and that means he is safe into Q2. Infratic has to be a bit careful and hope that, although let me just check real quick. No, he's also safe because Meraki is not going to improve. So he is also safe. And then it comes down to, it comes down to just one Ali and Meraki. They're the only two still sweating it out. El Taco Man out, just Han out, and Flexi. We're waiting for Hayden Gullis, who rounds the final corner and goes P12 and pushes down Meraki, who is out in Q1. That is a shocker and a half.
It certainly is. Certainly is. I mean, and it's all self-inflicted, you'd have to say as well, given that they were on those medium tyres. The gamble not paying off in any way, shape or form. And now, as you rightly say, they've now used up a little bit of the life from those mediums. And in addition to that, of course, they're not going to get a good starting position for having done that. So it's a bit of a loss all round for Meraki. But there we are then. That's them out of Q1. Along with, of course, our 4 other drivers there down in the drop zone. So, do you want to talk us through who has made it and who has not?
So, drivers that have made it are JJ Van Heffen, who went top of the timing sheets with a 23.7, only driver in the 123s here in Q1. So he's making a statement for sure. 4/10 clear of Tiamat Marduk in P2. Then we've got Bushy Ads, Tom 97, Mr. Dale, Tom, That Guy Vins, FTR Spinala, Razin Chai, Curbs in P10. Bit of a surprise there to see him that high up. Safso 11, Hayden Gullis 12, Dirk Juckler 13, Emphatic 14. Yes, both Red Bulls made it into Q2. Again, what a surprise. And Justwan Ali into Q2 as well with a 25.1. That being said, I'm not sure he's going to be able to compete in Q2 because he might. I didn't see it happening, but I think he may have crashed out over the course of the session. And if he actually crashed into the wall, that's him guaranteed 15th. The car will not be repaired for that. If he retired in the pit lane, it's a different story.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to just investigate there and wait and see, of course, what ends up coming out during Q2. But yeah, it's been a good set of times so far from the drivers today. I mean, car at the top of the field is clear by a good 0.3 of a second, but it's Q1. You know, we're not expecting the fastest times of the day. We're not expecting it to be as close as we'll expect to see in the likes of Q2 and Q3, for example. So now that we are seemingly heading down there, let's do just that.
And the drivers eliminated. I obviously did not mention that, but let's just go through it once again. And it just disappeared for me. That's awesome. It was, I saw Meraki and El Taco Man were obviously, I think, the two big names in terms of being eliminated. Just Hun crashed out, and I think the others were Flexi. And one is escaping my mind right now, unfortunately. I'm very sorry to that driver for not remembering it. But
honestly, Batcher, you've got one job. Oh dear, oh dear.
I've got multiple jobs here, don't worry.
You're the one who can actually see everybody's full name. I've just got the 3 letters there, and that's it. So that's that for this one. So let's take a look then, without our mugs on it, and without the better commentator's name underneath me, because otherwise I'll just give him a bad reputation all of a sudden. What's George Morgan doing? He suddenly looks like a mess, and he sounds terrible as well. That would be what people are thinking if they see my face and my voice next to his name. So there we go. We'll try and avoid that in future. So, out the pits they come once again then, and Sasso absolutely not wasting any time at all, and neither is the second Mercedes.
Yeah, a lot of drivers want to go out early, usually on a used set of tyres. And by the way, the driver that I forgot, it was actually Punju who was eliminated as well. So Meraki, El Taco Man, Just Punju, and Flexi were the 5 drivers that we said goodbye to in Q1 and that will not continue with Q2 and Q3. But yeah, drivers want to go out early, want to take a used set of tires right now to make sure that you don't waste much, and then you leave yourself that run on a new set of softs later on in Q2 towards the end of the session. I think we might see some drivers go a bit earlier, the ones that know that they have pace around here. I wouldn't be surprised if we see JJ Van Heffen going out right now on a used set and maybe already retire with the advantage he had as Safso on my screen just made a huge mistake there. Through Latifi corner. Almost ended up in the same wall as Latifi. But not quite. Was able to just save it. But it was a moment of severe snap oversteer for him.
A bit more oversteer for them on the exit of the final turn as well. Bit of a snap there on the back end of the car. So this may be not the absolute best prep lap in the world for them. But let's wait and see how they go around. Through the first few corners, no major dramas this time. And now down towards turn number 4 they go. Car looking reasonably well planted.
17.9. Not that great. Meanwhile, Van Heffen, on the other hand, first sector 17.4. That is very good. Middle sector 35.8. That is definitely up to par. Now the final sector. And again, I do think he is on a used set of softs. This already has one proper qualifying lap in it, plus an in-lap and an out-lap. And he's still crossing the line with a 24.2. I'm going to be bold here on my prediction. I'm going to say that's enough to make it into Q2 already. He doesn't have to go out anymore. That used set lap will be good enough.
I mean, I would be prepared to believe you on that bet, really, to be honest, because, I mean, we look at Q1, we look at the times there, they were the only ones in the 23s, everybody else in the 24s, so to get a very low 24, I think that is, as you rightly say, that's a very, very good effort on their part.
Yeah, it would have been good enough in Q1, I think, for 6th or 7th, so easily good enough for the top 10, and in that regard, yeah, it is looking very good. Plus, look at the gap he has to Tom 97 and Razincha in P2 and P3. We're talking 0.3 of a second, pretty much, to both of those drivers. And that bodes well, because the difference between slightly used softs that Van Heffen is on and everyone, I would assume, is on, and potentially new softs, it's not going to be 0.3 of a second. It's going to be about 0.2. Maybe 2.5 of a difference. So even if they improve, if they do the same quality of lap just on the new tire later on, I find it very hard to believe that they're going to stump Van Heffen here and overtake him. So a couple of drivers certainly will. I think Tiamat Marduk obviously being top of that list, but also Tom is very capable of that. Mr. Dale, if he gets a good lap, then he's capable of that. We got Bushy Ants with a surprisingly bad lap. There must have been some kind of a mistake for Bushy Ants during that lap. 6 seconds. That's not normally his pace, not even close, and I think he can absolutely improve. But Safzo as well, a driver who can definitely improve, but very, very strong lap from Van Heffen.
Very strong indeed, yes, absolutely. And despite it looking a relatively strong lap from Dirk Chocolate, they decide to actually pack it in. And so away they go, back into the pits then. And they deny us. They deny us a great, great finish to that lap. But that's fine. We can forgive them for that, can't we? So let's take a look then who else is out and about at the moment. Well, we've got a few drivers out on outlaps at the moment, including the one Ferrari in the field right now.
Yeah, we do. That is just one alley, but we have a driver on a flying lap, and that is that guy Vince, and it's not a bad lap. Less than 0.2 down in the first sector, just over 0.1 down in the middle sector. This could challenge Tom 97 and Razinchai over P2 and P3 right now. And again, we're expecting used sets of tires right now. So this would be a very good banker lap if he completes that as a 24.5 or 24.6. As he rounds the final corner, what's it going to be? It is a 24.7, just below that. Still decent, but I think he will have to go out again. I think everyone... not necessarily everyone. I think, yeah, all the way to Razinchai. Maybe that guy Vince, even they might be safe, but I think you do want to go out just to be super safe. You can always abort a lap later on.
Exactly, yeah. It's always a good thing to be out there on the thing, the track, whatever, words. I've just all of a sudden had a brain fart there.
Second. It happens sometimes. It happens to the best of us, but now we have more cars on proper flying laps, including Mr. Dale J.E. 17.4 in the first sector. Purple, hello! That's new tires. I can guarantee that is a new set of tires.
Which driver are we looking at? Sorry.
17.5 in the first sector, by the way, but 35.3 in the middle sector for Mr. Dale J.E. That is a stonking middle sector right there. Half a second clear of Van Heffen. That's a statement. And now the final sector should be another 3/10, I would expect. And we're talking mid-23. That's exactly what we're getting. 23.7. Fantastic lap by Mr. Dale J.E. And definitely that is a new set of tires for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Very, very, very good lap from the Aston Martin driver. And so we'll wait and see then whether that's going to be topped by anybody else in this session. But if it is, then of course that might then force our driver in P2 to get themselves back out there and get themselves a new set of tyres on just to be able to combat that threat. Because if all of a sudden someone else who was of course not as quick as them in Q1 can suddenly go half a second quicker in Q2, then that does not necessarily bode well for that prediction that you made earlier on that they might be able to get through on that original time.
Yeah, that being said, look at Van Heffen. He is out on the track right now and got slipstream off of Mr. Dale. So it looks like there's a cross-team collaboration going on between Aston Martin and Alfa Romeo as Van Heffen with a purple first sector, 17.2 now. That is incredible. Middle sector, not quite as good despite the slipstream, 35.5. And he is on the same tyre that he did his first lap on, the 24.2. So this is even more worn now. If he improves, it will be an amazing lap for sure. Let's see, last sector. It looks all neat and tidy, which is exactly what you want. Stays on the throttle here through the penultimate corner, as you can do now with the track changes. Final corner. What? No. No. That's a timing error. That can't be real.
I'm not sure that it is a timing error. What? It's a 1:23.3. Great time there from wow. them. But it's this also, is a.
Yeah, I want to slightly correct, by the way, my telemetry, my timing data that you can see, by the way, on my channel, twitch.tv/Badgerman is the data channel for today. It just updated, and apparently it was a different set of tires, so I would assume that's on new softs, not used ones. So. But still, an absolutely incredible lap of a 23.3 there.
Absolutely. And we're just looking at the pit lane here because you can see we've got two drivers just being wheeled back into the garage there. We've got Tiamat Marduk and Dirk Chocolate, both still with no time set and just under 5 minutes to go left in this session. So this then is a bit more crunch time for them. Infratic in the Red Bull, currently on the basis of the timings, you'd have to say is the #1 Red Bull driver in this particular session. And there we go. And I'm certain that somebody's going to be annoyed with me at that. But there we go.
That's going to be Dirk.
Yeah. And that's me never invited back. Everybody, there we go. It was nice speaking to you. But yeah. So Infratic then in P10, just safe for the time being. There's about a 4/10 gap there between themselves and the next car down the road. So that being Safso. And if we take a look now at Bushiant
is coming through the final corner exactly. And that's a significant improvement. There is a yellow flag that I don't know who's that for. Beats to me, quite frankly. But he goes P2, also 23.3, and that's the kind of pace we expect from Bushy Ants right there. Not the 1:30 that he did as a banker lap. This is the Bushy Ants that we got to know and love. Here comes Tom 97, meanwhile, with a 23.2, setting a statement of his own, going for provisional pole here. Well, provisional P1 here in Q2, as pole is not decided just yet. More and more cars now flowing out of the pit lane onto the circuit. We see Razinchai and Kerbs are coming out of the pit lane. It seems to me like they want to go for 2 runs, or 2 laps potentially. That if they mess up the first one, but they have enough fuel and enough time left to potentially do a second run, a second attempt at a decent lap as well. So taking a little bit of pressure off, knowing that if you mess up big time, you still have another lap. Tiamat Marduk spilling out of the pit lane now as well. More and more drivers. I'm a bit worried for those that are leaving now. They're going to be in traffic because we have 6 cars almost in the final sector, certainly in the second half of the lap, and Infratic is going to spill out on track exactly in that kind of traffic. Bushian's coming back to the pit lane, but for Infratic, that's a bit of an issue because Dirk Chocolate, his teammate, actually, that might be a team play here. Infratic might try to give Dirk Chocolate a little bit of slipstream down the first back straight.
Ooh, interesting. If it works, then it's going to be a masterstroke from Red Bull. And so as they go down towards turn number 4 then, this is Infratic just ahead, of course, of their teammate. And so let's see then whether this does in any way, shape or form help out Dirk Chocolate. Here we go then, on board with the Red Bull.
I don't think that...
I don't think they're helping.
No, that is the opposite. Oh, there's going to be talks after the race between those two drivers. The rivalry overflowing, flares, tempers, as Infratic refuses to give his teammate slipstream despite being in the perfect position for it.
And not only that, but Dirk is now 1 second off of the pace that Tom 97 has set at the head of this field. So as a result, they are in a real spot now where they've got to try and just gather everything up here in this last sector to make sure that everything is as it should be and try and get themselves within that top 10. They have about 6/10 worth of leeway in order to get that done. And so let's see whether or not it ends up working out for them. Here comes the Red Bull then. A little bit of a twitch there in the second to last corner, but then on exit through the final turn, another bit of a twitch there from the rear end. And it is just P10. But
will that last?
Will it last indeed? Because now, of course, starting a lap is their teammate. So let's see then whether the Red Bulls are able to get themselves into a bit of bother here, a bit of trouble if they do end up qualifying each other. Oh,
look at that!
Yeah.
Immediately, that guy Vince went up to P10. No, sorry, hold on. No, that was Cabs up to P7. My bad. That guy Vince just started a lap. Cabs up to P7, and that is some lofty heights for Cabs, who generally has not been performing all too well throughout the Creator Series. He scored 1 point. Not just that, he needed the help of me in the role of an engineer to accomplish that. That was in Bahrain, where I traded in my commentary seat, my cozy seat right here, for the engineering seat of Curbs, and was able to guide him to a P10, thankfully. Otherwise, I probably would have retired from engineering, but was able to get him there, and now he's P7, so this might be his best opportunity at scoring more than 1 point. Very strong lap indeed, and Dirk is already out at that point. Or time is over.
Oh, and Infratic! Sorry to talk over you there, but Infratic goes round, and then just to add insult to injury, Dirk then comes along and sits right in front of you. Infratic now reversing their way around, but now they've got that guy Vince coming through in the Alpha Tauri. And will that potentially impact their lap here?
It will. There's more drivers coming, and they're messing around. Thankfully, they're now moving out of the way, but I think for Hayden Gullis, it may have impacted his lap, but it's still good enough for P10. But there is a Tiamat Marduk right now in P15 and a Safso who will not improve. Must have made a mistake in the middle sector. He's 6 seconds or 5 seconds down in the middle sector. That is Safso, the reigning champion, out in Q2. What is going on today?
I don't know, but between the Red Bulls doing some sort of synchronized swimming technique with one another, it's an interesting one as Tiamat Marduk comes round the final turn. Then Benjamin Daly crossed the line, and where is it going to be? It's only 13th. He's out of the session as well. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Suddenly, for all those who might expect to get into Q3, it's all gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, obviously the likes of Tom 97, Van Heffen and Bushians, they were always going to be up there. That is clear. But now we've lost the reigning champions Safso, the leader in pole positions in the season, Meraki, the leader in the championship, Tiamat Marduk, and a driver who's also won a race last season and who is very capable in Just One Ali in P11. Absolute shocker of a qualifying. And I can tell you right now, this grid lineup is going to make for a fantastic race.
It certainly will.
This is what we know from, all the times in F1 where there was a qualifying that gave us some incredibly crazy results. Usually, the race that followed, whether it was a sprint race or a proper one, it always delivered and was an instant classic. So I wouldn't expect today to be anything different, to be anything less than an instant classic. Tom97 topping the timesheets then, ahead of Van Herfen, Bushians, Mr. Dale, Zvinala, Tom, Datgavins, Kerbs, Razinchai, and Hayden Gullis are the top 10, and they will duke it out in Q3. And we say goodbye, surprisingly early, to Justwan Ali, who will start 11th, Tiamat Marduk, who will start 13th, Safsa, who will start 15th, and we say, unsurprisingly, goodbye to Dark Chocolate and Infratic in P12 and 14, respectively. Sorry, I had to get that dig in.
That's fine. That's fine. You absolutely get it in there. But get it in there, Badgerman. Get in there, Badgerman. Are we going to see you in the Mercedes sometime soon? Who knows? But here we are then into Q3. And apologies once again to Mr. Morgan for me using his name next to this horrible thing that I happen to have attached to the top of my body. But there we go. So back into the session we go then. And let's take a look then at what's going to happen this time. So just the 10 drivers in this Q3 session, and we will then get a good deal of fighting between them.
Once again, Van Herfen first driver out, but Razinchai's teammate follows him immediately. The Alfa Romeos want to get as much track time here, as early track time as possible. Kerbs also going out early, and more cars leaving the pit lane, and Mr. Dale JE, then Razinchai. Nope, that's not Razinchai. He's already got, he's already out there. I like that my track map is messing me up right now. That would be Pushy Ants, then Justwan Ali and Infratic. There's also two, no, that's not Infratic. What is going on? My track map is giving me wrong names.
Oh dear.
That's unbelievable. That would be, Tom97, it has to be, right? Yeah, Tom97. I also have two Toms. Not Tom and Tom, but I'm talking Tombs on my track map. One in the Alpine, that is the proper Tom, and one in the house, that is FTR Spinella. So apologies to everyone watching the data channel over on twitch.tv/Badgerman, but there's a bit wrong there, and I can't fix it because that's just the software having a bit of fun. I don't know how to fix that, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, that's fine. Technical difficulties, they're a part and parcel of motorsport, both in the real and the virtual world. Especially if you happen to have, I don't know, a 2015 Honda engine, then technical difficulties were very much in the order there. But there we are then. So we've got then definitely not Tom, but Spinala instead on screens at the moment then, as they head through the next few corners on their outlap, of course. But now we're starting to get some crossing the line, including no, that's not them at all. That's a total lie. There we go. There's Kerbs. So through the first turn they go, and up towards turn number 2 then. Let's see what they're able to produce in their Williams this time around. So it was a good time last time out from them. Managed to get them through here into Q3. And now let's see if they can capitalize on that. If they can, of course, get themselves a great lap time here. First sector, not too shabby, but maybe not the absolute peak of performance that they would have been hoping for in this final Q3 session. And now, as we blast down the back straight here, let's wait and see what ends up happening as they get in towards the chicane. Car just ahead of them, of course. Let's hope then that the Mercedes there dives out of the way in the not too distant future. Otherwise, there might be some problems there, and they duly do so. Out of the way there, and that then will be Hayden Gullis, I would imagine, because they are, of course, on their outlap right now. And down towards this reprofiled section of the circuit we go. Into the big long left-hander. 53.6 then is the time so far around the circuit at this point. 2 personal bests, but nowhere near what we've been able to see from the absolute quickest drivers on circuit at the moment, who are ahead of Kerbs at the moment on track, and are likely going to be coming through to complete their laps in the next couple of seconds. So, as we keep an eye then on Kerbs, keep an eye also on the left-hand side of your picture to see what is going to happen here. With
Effen's going to go P1 with a 24.0, and again, that should be on used tyres. That is a fantastic lap on used tyres for sure. So he's putting down a very good banker indeed. Then we've got Kerbs at 24.7. Mr. Dale 24.1. Also fantastic lap on those used tyres. Bushy Ants 24.0. That's pretty much, I think, the top of what we can expect from banker laps. Razinchai has invalidated. He's going to go for a second attempt here. Then we've got that guy Vince, who definitely messed up 2 sectors and is going actually back into the pits. Next, we've got Tom97 invalid. And then we've got Spinella coming through. And that's 38-2 with what seems to be a very significant mistake in the final sector, where he lost himself a whopping 14 seconds. So not quite the ideal, or 13.5 seconds, let's say, because he still would have been a bit behind, but that's not the lap you were trying to go for. But I think he's actually going for another one. Yeah, he is using battery. I think he's trying to go for another one to at least get some banker in, as more drivers are going around. We have, I think, Tom starting a lap. Yep, Tom Brower starting a lap. Hayden Gullis is already on a flying lap. That could be a decent one. I reckon P4 as he crosses the line. Nope, P5. The final sector, surprisingly below his standards. Must have made some kind of mistake there in that final sector. 31.4. Not where you want to be. And more cars crossing the line. Razin Chai with 1 lap older tires as well. He did a double out lap here. Still going P1.
P1, and by 200ths of a second, 300ths to 3rd place, 800ths to 4th place. We were talking earlier on about how we were going to see the times much closer in the Q3 part of this session, and boy are they at this stage. Less than a tenth separating the top 4.
Meanwhile, Tom is, I think, the only car out right now on a proper flying lap, as Tom97 has invalidated and is actually back into the pits now. So Tom in P10, no laps so far, but that is about to change. Ooh, goes a bit deep there. That was not the ideal line, I reckon.
Oh, big snap of oversteer. Big slide there through the corner.
That is going to drag him down, I reckon, to P5, 6, or 7. It is P7 indeed. Very unlucky there. That was a violent snap of oversteer through Latifi corner. It is a tricky corner to get right, and there's a bit of a bump there in the circuit where it's at the perfectly wrong spot. It's just so easy to unsettle the car, and that's exactly what we saw there with Tom. And we saw a couple of times so far throughout this qualifying, and Tom just the latest victim of that. But now this is what I always like to call the calm before the storm. We have Tom, FTO Spinella, and that guy Vince, I think, all on in. Oh, that guy Vince.
That guy Vince, I think, the only one on a time lap right now. I think everybody else on in laps or in the pits. And as you rightly say, it is the quiet period now, and so that guy Vince has got the track all to themselves, with the exception of Tom just a bit further up the road, of course, on their in lap. And so let's see then how they're able to perform here. 53.1 being the absolute fastest through this part of the circuit. Then let's see what Vince is able to do here. So taking a nice tight line on the inside, trying to shorten that distance as much as they possibly can, and they're a 10th down on the session best time at the moment. Now that usually would put you pretty close to the top, but realistically now that's actually only going to put you P5 at maximum, so they're going to need to pull something special out in this 3rd and final sector. So through the next few corners they go then, keeping the car tucked in nicely into all of these curbs. And now then, as they go through Latifi corner, Latifi turn, if you want to get a little bit more alliterative with that then, and through the second to last corner, through the final turn then, and up towards the line they go. Little bit of a snap of oversteer there, and it's an improvement in that final sector. Not in their personal best, but certainly drags them close to the rest of the order, because they are now just 300 shy of the pole as well. So our top 5 separated by less than a tenth.
Yeah, not just that. He was 4 milliseconds away from the purple final sector set by Bushy Ants. So he pretty much matched him. A very, very strong final sector there by Vince indeed, and he did a fantastic job there. But now, yeah, he's got. Oh, he thought about taking out the brake boards. Some the drivers were warned about that, because obviously they are brake markers. So if you take them out, you shouldn't take them out deliberately. But some drivers are using line, and they don't care about those brake markers because they have the racing line on. But I think Vince is not one of those drivers. I think he doesn't have the racing line, so he maybe thought for himself, probably better if I keep him there. I need him.
Absolutely.
But yeah, he's just cutting every corner because he needs to make it back to the pits as quickly as possible to make sure he can get another run in, to make sure that he can get back out on track. Because you got to remember, it's a 1:24 lap. You want to make sure that you take it a little bit slower so the tires don't overheat. And then, let's say 1:30, 1:35, plus exiting the pit lane, putting on new tires. He has to be very quick now. I think it'll be just fine. He can obviously cut the outlap as well for the most part. Not entirely, but for the most part, in the first two sectors where you have the best cutting opportunities, really. But he needs to be on it. He needs to get out there and get out there quickly.
He certainly does indeed, and we've got this quiet period now, as we were talking about before. Then, so Tom, 97, currently the only one yet to set a time, is now in prime position to start their timed lap here. Then you see the rear light go off there on the back of the car as they then start to unleash the power there of that extra 160 horses from the electric motor generators, and away they go then, taking out a brake marker board just for good measure as well, into the first corner, really opening up that first apex as much as they possibly could there, and then scything their way through turns 2, 3 and down the hill towards number 4 then. So this big long left-hander, which of course sealed the deal for Max Verstappen a couple of years ago, and it has sealed a purple first sector for Tom 97. Just over a tenth up on what our leading Alfa Romeo is able to do, and now you can see a string of cars then all getting out of the way or too far ahead to really be much of a bother to Tom here as they come down now into the next part of the circuit. You can see them just straddling the white line there on the outside on entry to the corner, then through the apexes they go of the chicane before then onto power once more, really dragging out as much distance to the edge of the circuit without going over and invalidating their lap as they possibly can. Now down towards this great big long left-hander once more then, just 1 minute to go on the clock, so this will be what counts, and Tom is making it count. Over half a second now up on the fastest times that we've seen here today, and this then is going to be an absolutely sensational lap if they can keep this all together in the final sector. Through the right, through the left, just 3 more corners to go then, through the left-hander here, then 2 right-handers to come. Through these last couple of corners they come then, it's looking good for Tom 97. Where is this going to put them in this final run in Q3? I have a suspicion it might be P1. It is P1!
Wow!
By 4.5 tenths of a second, a 1:22.9, our first time in the 22s all day, and Tom 97 has absolutely done the business when it counted.
Yeah, absolutely. That is an impressive lap. That is unbelievably good. I did not expect to see a 1:22 here today. I thought a low 23 was going to be the best we can get here today, but there is a driver that will challenge Tom 97, and he just set a purple middle sector. That is Bushy Ants, currently P4. But as I said, purple middle sector, first sector that is good enough, but the final sector is what it comes down to. Through the final corner he goes. Oh, this is tense. Is it going to be enough? No! He misses out by 2 tenths ultimately, and that was all in the final sector. 23.1 with more cars coming. We got Tom in P9 right now. He is looking to improve. First sector wasn't that great, but the middle sector more than made up for it. After that, we have Razinshai, who has invalidated. Then it's going to be Hayden Gullis, who is currently P10. He's looking to improve, but here comes Tom, P4. Hayden Gullis through the final corner. What's it going to be for him? Lap time-wise, P9. Who is next? That would be Mr. Dale J.E. That is P4 for him. Then we're looking at Curbs, who has invalidated. That leaves FTR's Binala, who is heading back into the pits. And that would leave absolutely no one. Tom 97 is your pole sitter for the Creator Series Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
So there we are then. That has been a very exciting qualifying session, a whole qualifying hour here in the Creator Series. And so confirmation then that Tom 97 will take the pole position here at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and alongside them will be this driver here, Bushy Ants. The only reason we're not looking at Tom right now because he's already gone in the pits, so it's going to be a bit boring to look at a pit garage. So look at the Mercedes instead. So as far as that's concerned, then we then got Spinala and then a few other drivers out there too, before we'll get that full classification in just a moment or two's time. But Badger, I mean, that has been a really top draw qualifying session, especially in that middle part of Q3 when you had no idea who was going to be quickest. Everybody was just within a couple of hundredths of one another at the top end. But then, as you can see here, if I bother disabling the overlays, there we go, that Tom 97 is fastest. Then Bushy Ants, Spinala, Dale GE, Tom racing that guy Vince Van Geffen, who had of course a big fall from grace there after setting fastest times in Q1 and Q2, then Hayden Gullis and Curbs to round out our Q3 session.
Yeah, incredible time from Tom 97. What I'm a bit surprised by is that Van Geffen was not able to improve much, had to fall back on his banker lap, which wasn't quite good enough. I think if he just slightly improves that, he could have had at least P6. Now it's going to be P8 after he topped the timesheets in Q1, and with a time that would have been good enough for P4, actually. So there were a couple of invalidations on that final run for some of the drivers, and Van Geffen was one of them. That guy Vince as well, Razinchai as well. Very unfortunate for those guys. You got to make that last run count. You can't invalidate. If you do, it just pushes you down that many positions. So very unfortunate for them, but for Tom 97, Bushy Ants, and FTR Spinala on debut, by the way, it's a much better situation. They are the drivers at the top three, and Mr. Dale JE, P4. We know he's quick, but we also know he tends to bin it in the first 5 laps. That has been the theme so far of his Creator Series campaign. Sometimes lap 1, sometimes lap 2, sometimes as far as lap 4 is how he goes. But he promised all of his fans, all of his viewers, and everyone in the Creator Series, I was present when he said it, he promises to finish this race. It was a bold prediction from him. We're going to hold him to it. Starting in P4 certainly should leave him a lot out of trouble instead of in trouble. You want to avoid sort of the middle part of the grid. That's where things get very congested, either at the front or the back. Which is why I think drivers like Temet Marduk, Safso, Meraki, who are starting P13, 15, 16, they're not going to be too fussed about that. They're going to hopefully, they're going to play it very patiently, very cautiously. Just wait a couple of laps for the field to spread out. They know safety cars are bound to happen. So just, you know, be a bit patient and then pick them off one by one as you go.
Absolutely, yeah. That is the key, of course. It is a 100% distance race, so 58 laps around Abu Dhabi here that we've got to do. And so, as a result, the old adage remains especially true when you do a 100% distance race, and that is that you cannot win at the first corner, but you can certainly lose there. And so, as a result, then, keep it nice and calm. Even if you're going to lose a couple of positions in the first couple of corners, that's then ultimately where you're going to end up finding yourself a little bit further back from where you would like. At least you're still in the race. At least you're still going. You haven't been involved in incidents, you haven't lost a front wing, anything like that, and be off at the back and out of real contention, unless of course you get safety cars and other bits and pieces, which of course is all possible. I'll tell you what else is possible, is that we have ourselves our formation lap. And so out come the drivers then. We have Tom on pole at the moment then. And just a reminder of where everybody is and the tyres that everybody is on as well. Interesting strategies going on here, Badger. We've got one driver right at the back of the field on softs, pretty much everybody on mediums, and then notably our pole driver, our P11 driver, and then of course that little group in the middle just after the top 10 there of Ben Daly, Infratic, and then Safro, all on the hards. What do you read into that one?
The thing is, one thing we have seen so far over the course of this season is that the start on hards go as long as, you know, it takes for the first safety car after, let's say, lap 5, really, to come out, or maybe lap 10 to come out, then pit for mediums, and then around the middle of the race, pit again for mediums. And then maybe if there's a late safety car, go for softs. But, you know, generally try to use the safety cars to your advantage by getting the worst tire which is generally speaking for 100% races, the hard tire. It's just not viable around most circuits. It's too slow. It doesn't give you that much extra lifespan, that much extra tire life compared to the medium. So it's not really a worthy tire. So you just want to get it out of the way early, hope for a safety car somewhere in the middle of the race. That will bunch you back up, and then the real race begins. So that's what we're seeing right here. That's why Tom 97 is on hards. That's why Just One Ale, Tiamat Marduk, Safzone, and Fratic are on hards. A lot of other drivers are saying mediums. They want the flexibility of the medium tires, as we see the beautiful 360s. I mean, this is like the Mona Lisa, really. This is just sheer beauty.
I like to think it's a bit like an Attenborough documentary. Here come the F1 cars, and here they're going to now start their mating ceremony, trying to attract one another through spins and twirls. Or something along those lines, anyway. I wouldn't know much about it. So then, with our last car starting to slide into position then on the grid, and slide is awfully appropriate after all of that donutting, we then are ready to go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Lights out, and it's go, 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 and it looks like a relatively sedate start at the front then, between Tom 97 and Bushy Hans. Bushy Hans then has actually lost even more time and might be overtaken by Spinala around the first turn. Spinala forced all the way off of the circuit then, but manages to keep it all the way around the outside and up into P2. Great start from the Haas driver there. That guy Vince also doing well in the midfield there, getting themselves up to P6 in this one, with then a series of cars all in the background squabbling over position here, and Tiamat Marduk all the way up to P10 as well off of the start there, but Hayden Gullis has got something to say about that. The Mercedes driver getting back up the inside of the McLaren there, and now as they blast their way back down towards the end of this big long back straight, we've got the cars all grouped up together, and once again Spinala is not going to be deterred here. They're going to pull out to the inside. Are they going to go for the move? No, instead they've got to now try and defend from Tom. Tom now trying to send it all the way up the inside in the second part of the chicane, and it's working. There has been a penalty though for Just Hun, all the way back at the back of the field, Just Hun rather, and that is 6 seconds worth of time penalties on the very first lap. That's not what you want to be doing at all. And tell you what, another thing you don't want to be doing too much is fighting too badly with Tom at this stage. We see exactly what Spinala is doing. Spinala is desperately trying to hold on to that podium position and trying to squeeze Tom now to the inside, but Tom now has that inside line and gets that position. Great move there from the Alpine driver, and they slot themselves up into P3.
Yeah, very manic start, really, as Bushians has actually regained the position. We have a yellow flag. That's Just One Ale. Just One Ale is around in Latifi corner. He is rejoining in P18. The question is, does he have damage? He does stay out. It doesn't look like he has damage. I think the front wing looks intact. Everything else looks decently intact, but certainly lost a bunch of places there, and that is not what you want on the opening lap. 7 places now lost on the opening lap for Just One Ale. Meanwhile, the biggest gainer is Flexi, who started dead last and is now on the back of Tiamat Marduk, who himself gained 4 places. So 10 places gained in 1 lap for Flexi. That is mighty quick.
That is very quick indeed, and aided, I'm sure, by these soft tyres that they've got on the car. Much more grip than anybody else at this point in time, and therefore able to make some really good use of those and get some overtaking done. As we've seen, as you rightly point out, it's been able to get by half of the grid in this time, and Bushy has now taken the lead from Tom 97, but Tom 97 is not going to let that one lie. Maybe, no, they think about sending it up the inside. They don't do it in the end, but that does cause the Mercedes to go deep, go wide in that corner there. Now then, on the run back through, is there going to be a cutback on here between the Alpine and the Mercedes? No, they will follow through instead, and meanwhile, a bit further back, Spinala is now harassing the back of Tom, wanting that position back, but it's all go all over this field right now, with the gap still very close between all of the drivers, with the exception really of P16 to 15 and P18 to P17. Infratic having an absolutely horrible start for the alleged number 1 Red Bull driver. I think that title is bouncing back and forth between them as this race goes on. Bushians, unsurprisingly, sets the fastest lap of the race, completing the second lap at the head of the field, and then it's taken away by this battle going on here between the AlphaTauri and the McLaren, and there's a moment there for Ben Daly. Loose back end on the car there, and as they go through turns 1, 2 and 3 down the hill once more, they're going side by side now with the AlphaTauri, but the AlphaTauri gets ahead, makes good use of those soft tyres on the car, and they get by Ben Daly. Winner 3 times in a row, of course, when they won at Spa. And so now then, this is a good drive from the AlphaTauri driver. AlphaTauri driver, rather. Good England from me there, but there we go.
Meanwhile, flexing up to P9. That is impressive right there. And I don't think he's done yet. With those soft tires, he still has a significant advantage over everyone else. It's just a question of when does the first safety car happen. If you start on soft tires as Van Heffen and Razinchai are battling now, teammates going at it right in front of Flexi. If you start on soft tires, you really want that first safety car to come.
Whoa, Spinala around! Spinala lives up to their name. I'm trying to grab them, but they keep falling down the order quicker than I can get the thing. There we go. Now we've got them. And so that car then is still going, not out of this race. We had yellow flags briefly, but no safety car. And as you can see on the front wing there, no visible damage as they then send it straight back up the inside of Dirk Chocolate and get themselves back ahead of the Red Bull.
Meanwhile, El Taco Man also sending it on Dirk Chocolate there through the penultimate corner. Didn't quite work out. Dirk defending with all his might, but now Taco running wide there as well. A lot of drivers already collecting. 3 drivers already collecting.
Racing round.
Warning.
Sorry.
Yeah, Razinchai.
Sorry to interrupt you there, but yeah, first corner there, we were looking instead at the AlphaTauri and P7, who's been able to launch themselves up now to P7 there, as I say. And then as they happened to do so, we then just saw in the shot that, oh dear, it then all went horribly wrong for Razinchai. So dear, oh dear, for them, not a great beginning there. And now it means their teammate is exposed to potential attack here. They are more than a second rather, behind the car in front of them and less than a second ahead of the soft shod AlphaTauri. And so that way, this is going to mean then that for Van Heffen, it's going to be a very, very difficult defense here. That being said, they've been able to just sneak their way back into DRS again. So there we go then. That is a little stay of execution for them there, but I suspect that if they're not able to keep that performance up and keep within that second to the car in front, the fellow AlphaTauri, of course, so for Constructors' Championship points, it would be in their best interest to try and get as far away from the Alfa Romeo as they could to allow their teammate a much easier time to get past. It looks as though the Alfa Romeo's days may be numbered.
Yeah, possibly for a lot of drivers right now. I'm actually surprised to see Tom 97 being as high up as he is in P2, despite running on hard tires right now. The most important thing, I think, for him early on was to stay with Busch-Janz. He was able to do that so far. Just for the first 2 laps, you gotta stay there. You gotta stay there or thereabouts. And then once you get to lap 3, that's when you get the benefit of DRS. That's when it's much easier now to close back in to the car in front. And we see it right here with Tom 97. The gap was 8 tenths at one moment, and now it's dropping down to 4 or 5, 4, 3. He's getting closer and closer. So very, very strategic right now from Tom 97, and this will help him to stay with the Mercedes. This will help him later on in the race in terms of strategy, because he's got those pesky hard tires out of the way already. He doesn't need to use them anymore, and he now still has 2 sets of mediums left and possibly at least one set of
look at
softs.
this. Taking a much tighter line there. They've been able to get a wheel alongside with the Mercedes. Mercedes then manages to just out-drag them there. Spinala has then maybe made good on this move. They were building up on Hayden Gullis for corner after corner, down the back straight and round the outside, taking a very long line indeed round that reprofiled left-hander, and they managed to get the job done there. Back up to P7 though. The gap less than a tenth briefly there between the pair of them, and there's just action going on all the way up and down this field, even in Fratic, right down in P19 at the moment, only 2 tenths off the back of Punju in the Aston Martin there. And as they go across the start-finish line then, the soft tyres still doing a good enough job here for the AlphaTauri to keep them within this fight.
Curbs is around. Curbs is around in Latifi corner. That's a crash with Just Hun. Just Hun losing her front wing there. Nobody's out, so I don't expect a safety car, but I think Curbs and Just Hun got together. They're both pitting.
Damage on the front of that Williams as well.
Yes, not as much as it was for the Haas, but still damage, and that's going to be repairs, but no driver out yet. Very unfortunate for Curbs after qualifying P10. I think his best qualifying of the season. He's now going for hards.
Oh,
he will not make it to the end, but he'll get a long way into the race, that's for sure.
He certainly will.
I don't quite doubt that call. I think it's a decent call to make here. Just stick it out, go for hards, and then later on, you don't want to use mediums right now. He started on a set of mediums. You don't want to use your second and only remaining set right now. That's not the way to go. You rather take the hards and just continue and chug along for the next 30, 40 laps maybe until it's time to put on mediums again.
Absolutely, yeah. We saw a move there, or the ending of a move there between Safso and Merrick, and they've been able to swap positions there. So P9 for the Williams, P10 for the McLaren. Ben Daly is still up in P8 there, so but just not quite on the back of this group that we're seeing here. And this is an incredibly close battle still between the AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo. Which Alpha is going to come out on top? That's the question that remains here. And as they go down into the left-hander, once again, both cars should have DRS here, and so it's going to be a little bit of a game of cat and mouse, I suspect, as to then who's going to end up going for the move, who might not, who's going to be conservative, who's going to be a bit more bold. And so as they go down towards the chicane, then it looks as though the AlphaTauri has actually lost some time. So could it be then at lap 7, as early as this, that these soft tyres are now starting to just be a bit beyond their best and no longer able to compete with the mediums?
Well, looking at the times from Flexi, he's still, last lap, he still was the quickest driver, well, the second quickest driver on circuit, actually. Fastest was FTR's Binala. So I don't think so. Meanwhile, El Taco Man, I think, no, just one Ale actually around in the chicane in the middle sector there. And he loses a bunch of places, causes the yellow flag. We're back under green, though. But yeah, I think you're looking at the times. I wouldn't be worried if I was Flexi. I think right now, the softs and the mediums after 6 laps are pretty much on the same pace. Wouldn't say they're falling off just yet, but obviously they are starting to get there, but it's not quite that bad just yet. Once we have the times. Yeah, 28.9 now. That's on pace with P3, P4, P8. So I think this is the point where softs and mediums are pretty much equal.
So there we are then. A bit kind of degradation, of course, for the softs when you run a 100% race as opposed to a 50%, where it scales everything down, and then you get much more severe drop-off. And then, of course, as we watch this lead group then going down the back straight, no DRS open on the back of Tom 97's car. It is, however, open on the next several cars behind them, as this DRS train has very much formed and is chugging its way along around the circuit. So, as they keep on going then, we've got the AlphaTauri just here that we're on board with now, not our soft tyre runner that has, of course, been making some great progress up the field, but instead their teammate just a bit further up the order, car 61, as they were very close a bit earlier on. They're still reasonably close to the back of the car in front, but as we now watch there, Aston Martin has gotten a big old smacker on the back there, big tank slapper for them, and so all the time they'd gained behind the Alpine has then completely disappeared, and so they're going to have to do all that work again to get back within a 10th or 2, and at this stage then, everybody's being relatively calm, relatively measured with one another, I think it's fair to say. And as we then sit and wait for some carnage to happen, we'll keep an eye on all that's going on then. Different lines through that final turn. Some drivers making much more use of that curb on exit.
Flag.
Yellow flags. So where are we seeing those? Panju dear.
In P18, who went off in the reprofile. Oh, that was a rejoin. Went off in the reprofiled left-hander at the start of the final sector. And yeah, that rejoin was wild because he went straight over that exit curb that has a bunch of bumps in it. Very tricky to drive over, and he almost lost the car again there. But it seems like no damage for Panju. Maybe he damaged the floor of the car a bit by going going over that exit curb. And he's heading into the pits right now. I think there may be front wing damage then if he's coming in. Don't think he just overheated the tires, because then he would have spun 3 times more in oh no, it is just for new tires. That's surprising. No front wing change for him indeed. Yeah, I'm gonna call that into question. You don't necessarily need to come in just because your tires are slightly overheating. A little bit of driving slower and more cautiously, and you'll be fine. But he rejoins right behind Curbs in P18. And as such, will not quite get DRS. Panju, but we go back ahead where the top 3 are within 1.2 seconds right now. Bushy and Tom 97 and Tom, 2 Alpines there chasing down the Mercedes. Don't see that very often in real life, but you do see it here in the Creator Series.
You certainly do, you certainly do. Alpine, of course, having a bit of a troubled start to the season this year, and as have Mercedes, in fairness, though not quite as bad as some other teams. It's just that they, of course, hold themselves to such high standards that anything less than victories is something that then requires team statements of apology to the fans and all that sort of a thing. So there we go. So down the back straight go this lead group once more then, and it is pretty close. DRS open for the hard tyre runner of Tom 97, so Tom then is still having a very, very good race here despite getting overtaken. And so as we go through the next few corners then, we've got things still relatively close between these guys, and things are close still all the way back down, you would have to say, until the back of P7, and then there's a bit more of a gap there between them and Ben Daly, just a bit behind there, 3.2 seconds back in fact, 4.8 seconds back. So has there been a mistake from that McLaren? 4.8 seconds all of a sudden, so lost about a second there. Now the car doesn't look to be carrying any damage.
It's just the sim hub timing that's a bit wild. The current gap between Clement Marduk and the lead is 7.7. The current gap between Clement Marduk and the next car is 3.7, 3.8. But it's not that he made a mistake. It's more so that the hard tires are still taking a bit of time to come of age. They're still a bit rusty, let's call it. They aren't fully ready to compete with mediums of the same age. The mediums right now are definitely the best tire. The softs are starting to fall off, and Flexi is doing a great job on the soft tires with the 29.0 on the last lap. He's right on par with everyone in the top 7, but it's the hard tires really that and the lack of DRS for Clement Marduk. He lost the DRS about 5 laps ago, and that ever since he's been dropping back further and further and further, and soon into the clutches of Meraki, who just did his personal best and is, based on the last lap, the fastest man on track right now with a 28.7.
So there we go then. There's a comprehensive update as to what's going on out on circuit, and here's another one here that might be a powder keg about to go off in a moment or two's time. The Alfa Romeo of Van Heffen has now been able to get themselves nice and close to the back of the AlphaTauri here, as they have been for a while, but crucially, the AlphaTauri is now outside of DRS range, so consequently, they're going to have to now really drive hard to try and keep that Alfa Romeo behind. An Alfa Romeo which has looked reasonably quick in a straight line and still able to hit their apexes nicely, as we just saw there through the right-hander. Maybe a bit of an early apex on the left-hander there, which has then lost some bit of speed and compromised them slightly, but they're still closer to the AlphaTauri in front than they are to the AlphaTauri behind. And so this is a battle which might end up producing something a bit more spicy in the coming corners or laps. And so as they cross the line and begin their 12th lap then, and Bushy Yance is still up at the head of this field and in P1 by about a half a second from Tom 97, who is hanging in particularly well with those hard tyres, it must be said. And as we now keep this eye on the Alfa Romeo driver, they close in all the more on their quarry in front of them, and they are now just within about 0.3 of a second or so as they now round the left-hander, round the hairpin, and now start to bomb their way up towards them with DRS. All the way down towards that final chicane. I suspect that we might see the move on here. Yes, here it comes, and it's done way before even the braking zone comes up. Up into P5 then for the Alfa Romeo. That releases them and might allow them to then start to catch up onto the back of the group ahead. But they have now a bit of an easier time, because that guy Vince has now gotten a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting in their desperation to try and get themselves back into some sort of competitive fight with Van Heffen.
Yeah, it's all kicking off now. Meanwhile, we had a change for the lead as Tom 97 down the second DRS straight went and overtook Bushy Ants, feeling that maybe the hard tires might now be a little bit better. He's fancying his chances on those tires to potentially maybe even drive away from the medium runners, or maybe he just feels like there's something in the water to potentially cause a safety car soon. He's trying to make a run for it. Fastest lap of the race now, 28.2 from Tom 97. That is a fantastic lap. And you can really tell now the hard tires are starting to come of age. And that's what we're seeing right there. But the difference, the contrast between Tom 97 and Clement Marduk on the same tire is quite startling. 28.2 from Tom 97, granted, with a bit of DRS help, for sure. But 29.9, 1.7 seconds slower was Clement Marduk last lap. So he doesn't like the hard tires. And honestly, I really do think Clement Marduk is not going to be the main challenger here for the win as Bushians goes off the circuit, does rejoin, and I don't think he got a penalty out of it. He did get a warning, though, for corner cutting then. He certainly lost quite a bit of time. Very unfortunate indeed for Bushians that he just locked up, messed up his braking, and now the gap is 1.3 seconds between Tom 97 and Bushians, and it might just increase further with the change in tyres.
I suspect that you may well be right, of course, for the likes of those medium tyre runners behind Tom at the moment. They have got to try and eke out as much performance as they possibly can at this later stage of their stint. And then, of course, as that stint continues to wear on, the hard tyre will start to get further away. But they then know at least that they can end up pitting, go for a very early undercut, essentially, as another fastest lap goes in for Tom 97. And so that then puts them just even further up the way there. You can see that then, a 128.2 for the Alpine driver. And so that then means that they are nicely placed to get themselves that bit further up the order. Well, I say further up the order, they're at the head of the order. Never mind, I'm talking absolute nonsense again. So, we've then got a bit of a charge from the other Alfa Romeo, though. All the way back down the order here. Racing, having obviously that half spin that we saw earlier on at turn number 1. We then see them now starting to carve their way back through the field, as we've seen for Spinala as well. And so it's awfully appropriate that they're on the back of that particular Haas. And so these two drivers then were at the top end of the field, were putting in some very good lap times. But now then, let's see how easy this move is, if at all, for the Alfa Romeo driver. And as it is then, they go down the back straight, ahead before the braking zone, close that DRS and get themselves all the downforce in the world to then slow down for the corner. Good move there, as they then tried to plough on and get themselves away. However, it is now advantage Haas rather than Alfa Romeo, because of course now the Haas is going to end up trying to get the DRS open, and is open in fact, you can see there, but no, not to any avail for them as they go through the big long left-hander. A bit of a treacherous corner in the game really, owing to the fact that of course as you go through in certain lines, the car's geometry can actually go underneath the road and unsettle the car in a big way as you sort of pop back out and up onto the top surface. So I'm sure drivers will be aware of that and want to try and mitigate that as much as they possibly can, driving with that little bit of anticipation that things could maybe start to break away from them in that corner, so not to push it quite so hard. Meanwhile, for Timoet Marduk, they have been overtaken by Merrick.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was somewhat deliberate and Timoet Marduk didn't fight it too much, because again, for him right now, his pace is a bit tough. Not quite where he would want it to be, and so to have someone like Meraki, who is decently quick around here, and it was just very unfortunate in Q1 to get eliminated with a bit of a bad tactic, but who certainly has the pace. It's probably better for Timoet Marduk right now to just basically chill in the DRS and just get dragged along around the circuit and get that DRS every single lap without actually fighting and just working together. And really just having a locomotive in Meraki. I think that's the plan here, and it seems to be working quite decently as Flexi. Remember, he started on the softs, he has pitted, and he's now overtaking both Juswan Ali and El Taco Man to get himself a bit of fresh and clean air on those new mediums, and he's doing a great job of that, and he's going to pull a gap now, I would reckon, to Juswan Ali and El Taco Man once the DRS is done here for the rest of the lap. And so a bit unfortunate of him to come out in traffic as Timoet Marduk gets himself a 3-second time penalty. That was his third warning, and it happened in Latifi corner, on the exit of Latifi corner. He just went a bit too wide there and got himself that penalty, as Mr. Dale is now dropping down the order. What is going on here? There's a slow Haas. Why is Mr. Dale going slowly?
Oh dear,
Safety car.
Dear.
Safety car. Oh, that's a godsend for all the medium runners, potentially for some hard runners as well, as everyone now gets to decide. Dirk Chocolate is going to be the first one to come in, but everyone gets to decide now, gets to think about it for a whole lap. Will they pit or will they not? If I'm on mediums, yeah, I'd come in right now. If I'm on hards, oh, it's a 50-50. That's the one where you really have to think twice. If you're Flexi, obviously you're staying out.
Absolutely, yeah.
He also won't be gaining that many places. He'll get ahead of Spinala, ahead of Razin Choi. It'll be close with Meraki, Timoet Marduk, Mr. Dale, and Safsa. I think that's the group where he's gonna re-emerge. We're going to have to wait and see, because obviously all the drivers will now drive to a delta that is 60% of the normal pace around here. And Infratic also coming into the pits for new mediums. He was on hard, so he's taking that decision. Dirk Chocolate, meanwhile, went from mediums to another set of mediums. I'm not sure that's a good idea. I think if you're on mediums right now, you want to go for softs, because as we know, safety cars breed safety cars.
They certainly do. They absolutely do. And as you can see then, we've got some drivers back towards the rear end of the field starting to go in for those change of tyres. We've got Ben Daly in the pits as well, I would imagine. If that is them. No, there they are. And yes, into the pits they go. Just behind Dale there, of course, in the Aston Martin ahead. And so, yeah, things then looking relatively okay from their perspective. It's now going to be this question as all the entire top 11 have decided to come in. A huge swathe of cars all coming in, and Daly is held up by their teammate Safso. And so, dear oh dear, that then means they are then in a horrible situation. They get themselves back out again. They'll have lost a bit of time here. And so the question then is, where is this driver here, the AlphaTauri? And, well, I tell you what, they've done a bit better than just getting themselves back up ahead of Ben Daly. They've got themselves into P3 during this safety car period. Yeah,
that is surprising that he gained that much time and is ahead of drivers like Bushy and Justwan Ali. Obviously, did not pit. In fact, we only have 2 drivers who didn't pit at all so far this race. And that would be Tom in P1 and Justwan Ali in P5. They're the only 2 drivers who stayed out. For Justwan Ali, it's understandable. He started on hards. And as I said, it's a 50-50 call. I think you can justify staying out on hard tires right now. For Tom, he started on mediums. So I'm not sure about this one. And Mr. Dale just got a drive-through penalty for speeding under safety car. I can't believe it.
Oh,
I
dear.
cannot believe it. That is the rookie mistake of rookie mistakes. And there's always something in Mr. Dale's race. Usually it only lasts about 5 laps. But in this case, once it lasts longer, all of a sudden you get this sort of stuff. A drive-through penalty. That's unbelievable. And the worst part is, he can't serve it right now. He cannot just go in under safety car and try to serve that. Doesn't work. You can only serve a drive-through penalty when it's either a VSC, that would be the ideal scenario, or green flags.
Well, there we go then. So, through the left-hand they go of turn number 1. The safety car has caught most of the grid at this point. So let's just see whereabouts our last place driver is right now. And you can see them there just coming through the first corner as well. Now, of course, they look a little bit out of sequence. Can you confirm, is Punju on the lead lap anymore?
He should be. No, he's not.
No, I suspected not, because we've got the 2 cars behind them, you see.
Yeah, but so we have a bit of a tradition here in the Creator Series that drivers who are lapped will be let through. The way this works is that the drivers in front that are on the lead lap and directly in front of the lapped car usually drive off the circuit to then be overtaken. And there we see it, for example, with the Haas. Next is going to be Safso, who notices, there we go, and 1 more position. And we've got 8 more to go for Punju to get through and be able to unlap himself and get back on the lead lap. Let's see if Muraki notices. Nope, not quite, not yet.
Dear oh dear. But, I mean, you know, it's there's something of a tradition of unlapping certain cars and not others behind safety car in Abu Dhabi at this particular track configuration. I did. Yes, I'm here. I'm gonna just be as much of a nuisance as I possibly can be, and hopefully it makes me endearing enough that some people will want me back at some stage in the future. But maybe not some Lewis Hamilton fans, of which I'm one, by the way. So you know, if I'm taking the mickey, then I'm allowed, really. Let's be honest. So let's go through the next few cars then in this field. So currently then, Tom at the head of the field with the 17-lap-old mediums. Now, you were saying before, Badger, about how that's a bit of a confusing one. I mean, I would have put the theory forward that maybe they were going to stay out 1 extra lap so they didn't end up having to double stack with their teammate. But they've still not come in. So that theory doesn't hold any water at all. As apparently we've got some Ferrari mechanics in the pit lane just doing a statue competition of some description. I don't know whatever that is.
Mark is in. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah, that's an odd one there. Tiamat Marduk coming in. Oh no, for a new front wing. There must have been contact between Tiamat Marduk and some other driver that we didn't see that cost Tiamat Marduk his front wing. So he has to come in again, go for another set of mediums. The good thing is the set of mediums that he still has left now is the one he just got rid of, which is only two safety car lap old mediums. That's 4% of tire weight. It's nothing. It's basically brand new. You took it out for a stroll, no pun intended, and you know that's what it is. It's not that bad, but the bigger loss, of course, is the track position down to P18. But it is Tiamat Marduk at the end of the day. He's won from worse positions before.
Certainly has. Just going through the field at this point, and particularly those drivers towards the back, and you can see that Ben is now catching the back of the queue. We've got then our 19th place driver, if the keyboard will behave, there we go, is now coming through the last couple of corners, so they'll at least come back to the back of this field with tyres in perfect condition, with all the temperatures up and so on. And then, of course, we've got just behind the safety car here, you've got then Punju at the back of the field. Everybody has now allowed them to unlap themselves. And so let's wait and see then if the safety car will allow them to do so as well. If not, then, well, Punju might be in a little bit of a pickle here at this stage.
Punju is the safety car right now. I don't know why he's doing that. I think he could just drive past the safety car and everything.
Maybe safety car's in at the end of this lap? Safety car's in at the end of this lap, that's why. No flashing lights on the back of the safety car.
Yeah, no, but he could still drive past. I don't know why he's being the safety car here. He could just drive past. And he's just going super slow right now. It's... Oh my.
Well...
Now he's driving away.
Now he's trying his absolute best. But as we go back to the action then, we have then all these drivers, some with new tyres, some not. And Tom, who we're watching at the moment, definitely not with new tyres. But their teammate certainly does have them. And so too does the car directly behind them. We've now got the AlphaTauri who started at the back of the field, potentially challenging for second place here.
Yeah, Flexi, here he goes. Potentially up the inside. Not quite happening. The camera is not working for me. What is happening?
Oh, dear.
The camera's... Oh, there we go. The camera was stuck in the corner, and it just... Yeah, the car was already way on the straight, and then... yeah, that was great. But here goes
and here
Flexi,
we go. Flexi up the inside.
And that is the position taken. Did he just go through him?
That's a very good question. I don't think they did.
To me, it looked like they did, but it looked like Flexi went through Tom 97. But maybe that was just on my screen, and it was a bit odd because I've got some CPU issues because I'm running the data channel at the same time. So maybe it was just on my screen. If so, just forget what I just said. Flexi
what did you just
P2
say?
On those medium tires that are granted 3 laps older, but only 3 laps older. So we see Flexi definitely has some good pace to him. And now the leaders are starting to catch Punju again. Yeah, that's not good. I'm a bit worried for Punju here. He's going to get blue flags soon. I feel like at this point he needs another safety car and not be the cause of it to make sure he stays on the lead lap.
Absolutely, but look at this then. Flexi, the car number 15 in the AlphaTauri, started this race at the back, is now nice and tucked in behind Tom on those aged old medium tyres and takes the lead of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. This is a brilliant performance from Flexi so far, and now they're going to try and tuck themselves in nice and easily behind Punju. Punju just gets off the brakes. They just get out of the way. And in doing so, that's allowed a little bit of a sniff back from Tom here. And Tom's going to try it around the outside. It's not going to work this time, I suspect. No, they're just crowded outside. They do send it back up the inside, though. Full credit to them. But now, as they start to drive out of the corner, it looks as though more traction underneath that AlphaTauri at this point in time. Although Tom is still tucked in behind there, nice and close. AlphaTauri goes defensive. Alpine tries to go around the outside. We've seen that work for some drivers here today, but it's not worked this time. That lack of grip then on those tyres, just to give you a reminder of the ages there, 20 lap old tyres for Tom, and then 7 lap old tyres for Flexi, with them of course having had about 3-4 of those laps under the safety car. So it's a bit of a young set of tyres on their car right now, and now that they're free, I suspect they're going to start to drive away as well.
Yeah, could very well be, and Tom is going to fall down the order a bit like an anchor in water. Just slowly but surely, he's just going to drop more and more. I just hope he doesn't hold up his teammate all too much, because that is not going to contribute to a great atmosphere in the Alpine team. No. And if you know, you know. Normally, Alpine have had issues so far, not in terms of, not in terms of atmosphere, but in terms of scoring points so far this season. Tom regularly puts himself in these really, really good positions towards the end of the race, and then he just, in some miraculous fashion or another, ends up either not scoring points at all or not even finishing, as we saw in Spa, where he ended up in the wall, in the pit wall, after the final corner, and DNF'd after literally completing every single corner of the 44-lap race.
So there we go then, not good at all, and Alpine then, their woes continue here in the Creator Series, as of course, if they maybe let their teammate by a bit quicker there, then maybe we could avoid making an Esteban Ocon Pierre Gasly joke, but are we going to avoid it? Absolutely not. And so, things then getting a bit spicy in the French cap, both in the real and the virtual world. So, as they go on through to then complete this latest lap, it does then just strike me that this is just sort of preserving things for the sake of preserving them at this stage. Tom should have gone into the pits at some point by now, and a new fastest lap is set then by Tiamat Marduk. Once again, they did it last lap, and they've done it again, and so that McLaren then seeming much, much happier on its medium tyres versus those hards they started the race on. So, there we go. As we start to watch them head down towards the next couple of corners then, is Tom going to lose one more place here to the Mercedes driver? Not into the corner they will, but maybe then on traction on exit here, and then with the DRS
Yellow
too.
Flag is Hayden Gullis in P17, dear, who is off, and that might be potentially... No, he's going slowly. It could be a safety car. No, he's speeding up again. Green flags waving. Oh, that was close. If he stays there a bit longer, I think that's a safety car. But Bushian's now past Tom, and that is another position down for the Dutch Alpine ambassador. Tom down to P5, and he's only going to go further. But really, he's in a bit of a pickle. He's in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. If he pits, he double stacks with Tom 97 during the safety car period. And if he doesn't pit, as he didn't, now he's just absolutely not competitive whatsoever. So I think what he's trying to do is try to stay with all these other cars as much as he can, and then either hope for another safety car very soon, or if not, wait for the medium tires of everyone else to start falling off. And maybe he's going to go for soft tires and just go for a couple of laps of like really pushing, go really hard, and then hope for, if then a safety car comes out when he's already been on softs for 5 laps, he's driven down the gap enough that he would make up all those places again. So it's a very tricky situation for him, and he's got to time this absolutely right, or he is in more than just a spot of bother.
Yes, potentially. And I'll tell you one driver who is making up for spots of bother they had earlier on in this race. It's Ben Daly. 3 fastest laps in a row around this circuit now, and they are rapidly catching the back of this great big group in front of them here that is all very tightly packed together, including of course their teammate who's trying to get on by Tom here at the moment, and Tom once again, unfortunately for them, being the cork in the bottle here as they now head round down towards this final back straight here, a second part of the DRS straight. DRS open on all the cars behind, but not for Tom themselves, and Tom sticks ferociously to the racing line, forces the McLaren to go to the inside, but the McLaren makes it child's play as they go up the inside there, and now then it looks as though things might be even closer between Tom and the cars behind once more then, as they go through the right-hander and into the final part of this third sector. Very tricky, very twisty, very slow around here, and that is something where you need to rely more, and there's a mistake there from the Alfa Romeo. Racing is round, and that then means that they have all sorts of drama. The Ferraris in the background are both out.
That's a safety car, surely, and it is
a full safety car. Yeah, full safety car at this stage in the race then. We've got then one of the Ferraris still in there, my apologies.
Tom immediately in.
Tom in, and rightly so for the Alpine, I think. That was a blessing for them. And, well then, look at this then. The Ferrari is in the pits, needs a new front wing. So too, I think, does Infratic, as they were caught up in amongst all of that as well. And so the Red Bull in just behind the Ferrari there. And so into the box they have gone. You then see this very long, painstaking process there to get the front wing changed, and away they go once more. You can see the Red Bull pull out just behind, so unfortunately for Infratic, they've not been able to get themselves back in front of the Ferrari there, as they were sort of sandwiched between both Ferraris as they went through that corner there. So, a bit of an unfortunate one for them. And then throughout the rest of the field, well, that's going to then, of course, change the game as far as tyre life is concerned. Now, all of a sudden, the driver who has been impressing massively, going all the way up to the front of the order, Flexi, is now going to be on some of the oldest tyres in the field at this stage. Curbs is now down in P9 and has 19-lap-old hard tyres. Excuse me, and potentially in one of those situations where they need to, just kind of take stock, really. They've got a big gap to the cars behind them. If we take a look at that gap right now, it's about 6.5 seconds, but that's 6.5 seconds under safety car delta time at this stage, unless, of course, the leader has already been picked up by the safety car. They have not, you can see there.
No, they have not, so he can pit, so they're all under safety car. This is the thing that a lot of drivers, a trap that drivers fall into very easily, as Flexi actually pits. And I don't blame him for that. I think he's going to be ahead of potentially Dark Chocolate and Baraki. Because again, as you said, they are under safety car delta. It's going to be close. Actually, speaking of Baraki, is coming in as well. Dark Chocolate is staying out. It's going to be very close on exit, though. But Dirk is past Flexi, indeed. Razin likely won't be. Or will he? It's going to be close. Razin is ahead. So Flexi losing one more position there. But yeah, it's a tricky one that a lot of drivers fall into that trap where if the safety car comes out and they have like 2 sectors still to go until they catch up to the safety car, oftentimes they don't realize that, oh, I just went past the pit lane. Well, yes, but so did the leader, so you still have the choice. And in this case, it's exactly what happened. Flexi was totally okay to pit, and he has done so. He's gone to hards, though. Not sure that's the right call. They will make it to the end, that's for sure. But do we really think there's not going to be another safety car in 32 laps? At the end of the day, this is the Creator Series. There's likely going to be another safety car in the next 32 laps. So I can't agree with that call. I think it would have been better for him to stay out or maybe go for another set of mediums if they make it. Although I doubt that. I think P1 and keeping track position there would have been better. He only had a 3-lap disadvantage on tires. That's not massive. He had very good pace. So I'm going to put that into question a little bit. Another strategy call I'm going to put into question is Kerbs. You mentioned it. 20-lap-old hards now. It was 19 when you mentioned it, but a lap has passed. There's a 20-lap-old hards. Why is he not in? Why is he still out there on those old, bad tires? I think he should have pitted for mediums, potentially. Maybe he's waiting for one more safety car, in which case he's absolutely validated. But if there's no more safety cars coming, that would be a problem for him. Other than that, and he had the gap as well. He would have lost, I think, 2 or 3 places at the time. The gap was 19 seconds, I think 3 cars behind, and he would have had that easily. So he would have lost 2 places most likely. But instead, not what he chose to do. And as such, he is now in P8, but on the worst tyres on the grid.
Absolutely, yeah. So not the most ideal of scenarios for them. And given all that we have seen here today with differing tyre strategies and things like that, do you know, I have a feeling that actually Flexi's going to have a relatively easy time of it here on the restart, and I'll tell you why. Sure, the difference between those mediums and hards is probably going to be more in the mediums' favour at this stage, given that they're only 10 laps old, but those hards will, much, much quicker than if this were a full race start, of course, come into play. And they will then offer that opportunity for the drivers to be able to really put their foot down and push. The other thing is that those tyres may well go to the end of this race as well. And so given that that is a potential option here, if they're able to skip an entire extra pit stop, then even if the other drivers end up getting about 5-10 seconds ahead of them, it's then still going to be a scenario in which they should be able to get themselves a bit further up the order. And poor old Punju has been in all sorts of bother with safety cars last time around. Let's hope this time they're able to pass it and then keep on going here. You can see that green light on the back there, so they're being told to pass. And so around the outside of the safety car they go. And you can see there, Formula One cars are relatively speaking quite small machines, but you put them next to a sports car that's already reasonably small, and they look even smaller, except for in the length. But remember, everybody, it's not just length that counts.
Oh, wow. Okay. Did not expect that, but here we are. So we're going to have at least one more lap behind the safety car because we're waiting for Just Hun to still close in on the rest of the safety car train. And that's why the safety car stayed out once more as, Punju is rounding the track. I don't think the safety car is actually going to wait for Punju. I think it's only going to wait for Just Hun, who has now reached the back of the train. And so expect the safety car to come in at the end of this lap. So drivers need to start warming up their tires. There's a bit of a thing going on where cars getting bunched up right now behind Van Heffen for whatever reason, and now they're closing back in. So don't know what's going on there exactly, but everything's working, everything's going well again. And we have 30 laps left at the end of this one, so we're just under half distance, and we've already had 2 safety cars. We only, and I think that's the big elephant in the room, we've only had 1 retirement so far. That's not something you usually see in the Creator Series. Normally 4, 5 by now. That's sort of the average. Granted, Devin Butler isn't here today, so that definitely helped. But Adam, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I'm still hurt from what happened at Spa.
There we go. There's confirmation, everybody. Badger hates Devin Butler and the actor who plays him.
No, I engineered him. Engineered him. I can't hate him.
So,
but, did we get the message safety car in this lap? Yeah, safety car is pulling off. So Tom 97 is in charge now. And we will get the restart shortly. Obviously, as you mentioned, the hard tires will come into play a bit earlier than if it was a normal race start. But they are still harder to get up to temperature. They're still harder to warm up. So the mediums should have an advantage through the first sector. Maybe the second sector as well. I think once they get through the chicane, it's going to be pretty equal. Again, disregarding that little advantage that the mediums probably have at this point still.
And interestingly, oh, no, not into the pits goes Tom 97. It looked as though he was going to. And then through the final turn, keeping it nice and slow, right up to the line, and away we go. Green flag racing once more then, and Safso is not messing about at all. The McLaren goes straight up the inside on the restart there. Brilliant bit of opportunistic driving from there to get themselves by Bushy Ants. And now then they're going to try and chase their way after the Alfa Romeo. And then Tom 97 at the head of this field, of course. Look at how close the McLaren's gotten already. Up the inside, they're potentially going to go there. No, don't end up going for it in the end. They try to go all the way around the outside in the hairpin. It's not going to work from these yellow flags in the second sector there. Oh, and it's all kicked off in the background. There's Spinala around, and they are all the way back there. Dirt Chocolate too. And then we've got ourselves also Hayden Gullis and Fratic involved in that as well, and it's just all carnage everywhere. But green flag's still going on. We've not got a safety car, and so as a result then we continue racing as it turns out. P7 then for the Aston Martin briefly before they're repassed by the Alpine of Tom. And so let's see then how this fight shapes out on the back straight here. Let's see. And in all of this, Tiamat Marduk has now got themselves alongside the Aston Martin. Gets on past now. And just behind that,
Van Heffen and Tom 97 are fighting for the lead here. And Van Heffen was passed for a brief moment round the outside of the newly profiled left-hander in the final sector, the start of the final sector. But because he was on the outside, that didn't quite hold. Tom 97 still in the lead.
Tom 97 still in the lead, absolutely, and you can see then these drivers still pushing as hard as they possibly can. Quick reminder for you of the tyre life ages. We've got then a bunch of drivers here still in very good order and good nick, and one driver in particular good nick is Safso. Look at this now, up now into P2, has been able to get by Van Heffen there, so Van Heffen had their attempt at the race leader and it didn't work out for them, and now it's the McLaren's turn. Up 4 positions from the restart, very good driving from them to recover and get up the order like this. And clearly those medium tyres working very well on the Papaya cars here today, as Ben Daly is now really close to the back of Curbs as well. In fact, so close to the back of Curbs, they're beyond the back of Curbs. They managed to overtake the Williams driver, and now even having a think of the other Alpine as well. Tom falling down the order here. down into P7, and Team Marduk goes up into P6 then in that McLaren. They've got 3.6 seconds now to catch up onto the back of Bushy Ants. I say that, it then looks like it's 9/10 of a second on the back of Bushy Ants. I suspect it's closer to the former than the latter, but there we go. And now they go blasting their way back down the back straight then. Hopefully they're not going, for their sake at least, they're not going to be repassed by Tom here. No opportunity comes for the Alpine driver, and so through the left-hander goes the McLaren, completely undeterred. Meanwhile, up at the front of this order, Safso, their teammate, has been able to get even closer to the back of the Alpine. And this then is looking like a potentially spicy fight going on here. And then, of course, you've got to keep in mind Flexi later on. Flexi, with those hards, will become a factor soon, if not right now.
Yeah, a lot going on here, and meanwhile, DRS now enabled. We have had 2 laps since the restart. And that means we're going to have a bit more fighting going on. Yellow flag again, this time for just Hun, I think. Nope, that is Binala, actually. Once again, staying true to his name, who's spun on the exit of the final corner and onto the main straight. And no damage, it seems, to that Haas, but definitely positions lost. And we have the new fastest lap. Once again, from Tim Marduk, 27.4. He is flying right now.
Certainly is. Curbs, however, is sinking a bit. By comparison, they have those very old tyres. Of course, have now lost 2 positions down just the one straight. They go into the the chicane then, to get themselves a little bit of a better exit in terms of the line versus the AlphaTauri in front of that guy, Vince. I think. That guy Vince, yes. Yep. We then get themselves not enough grip with those tyres, not enough purchase to actually get themselves back alongside and try and make the move happen. So, as it is then, that is how things are at this point in time for the lead Williams driver. Then you've got Merrick just behind, who's then trying to make some impression on Racing. And then, of course, we've got one of the 2 Ferraris there, the only Ferrari remaining in this race, after their teammate crashed out in the corner that they're going through right now.
Yeah, meanwhile, the top 3, top 4 haven't changed, but Tim Marduk now all over the back of Bushy Ants. Seems like Tim Marduk's found the back burners a bit as he switched onto his slightly newer medium tires. He still has a 6-lap-old with, I think, 3 safety car laps in it. So really a 4-lap-old medium set still available that he used earlier. So he could still go back to the other mediums. That is a possibility. After all of this, if he were to pit again, as he now goes for the move on Bushy Ants. Bushy Ants without DRS here, so no chance for him to defend this. And Tiamat Marduk is flying once more. Can he get to the DRS of Flexi? Is that possible? The gap is just too high. No, he will not be able to do that. So that now leaves him vulnerable on a counterattack from Bushy Ants into the long left-hander here. Not quite. He's not close enough to do that. But Tiamat Marduk now in P5 and trying to hunt down the top 4.
Absolutely, yes indeed. And so it's the march of the McLarens right now, up to P2 for Safso and then P5 for Ben Daly. And as you rightly say, the top 4 are still close enough where there's definitely some good threat there. That being said though, Flexi on those hard tyres, as we keep on saying, may not be a factor right this moment in terms of getting the moves done, but certainly a factor for later on, given that they have that tyre advantage, that ability to go that much deeper into the race, potentially all the way to the end of it. New fastest lap then from Tiamat Marduk once more, so that's now 3 fastest laps in a row for the McLaren driver, who does, worth pointing out, still carry some time penalties, of course. So 3 seconds for them, 3 seconds too for Flexi in front, and then for Vince and for the Aston Martin just behind them, another 3 seconds. Then Infratic has 3 seconds, and poor old just... it's not just one L, is it? They were the Ferrari. But the other one, the Haas, they have got themselves 9 seconds worth of time penalties. And so...
it's just Hun.
There you go, just Hun. I knew it was just something. I just couldn't put it anywhere in my head. But there we go. So, there we are then. Things very, very close between all these drivers right now. And, in fact, very close between Safso and Van Heffen. So close, in fact, that Van Heffen has DRS. Safso does not and goes to the inside. Up into the left-hander. Outbreaks the McLaren and manages to get themselves past. And so that then means it is very much Alfa Romeo back in the driving seat, pardon the pun, in terms of chasing on after Tom there at the head of this field.
Yeah, very good move there. And the one driver who won most in that battle, in my opinion, wasn't Van Herfen. It was Tom 97, as now Flexi and Safso are swapping positions on my screen. Oh, Tom 97 has spun! Oh, that is a commentator's curse. I can only apologize to Tom 97 for that. He spun in the penultimate corner. He got a bit of an oversteer moment to the right, and then overcorrected and spun off to the left. Now he's down to P6 on those medium tires and lost the lead. Not just that, lost the top 5 right now. Lost over 6 seconds from that. Oh, that is unfortunate for Tom 97. He's going to have to recover that right now. The good news for him is he does have plenty of battery to drain. He actually has a full battery to be able to use here and make sure that he can potentially catch back up to Bushy Ants and then the top 4.
Absolutely. So there we go then. Plenty of energy remaining then. And try and get themselves into a good place. And the McLaren swap positions then. So Ben Daly gets themselves up onto the podium in this one, with then sights very much firmly set on the race lead, which is back in the hands of Van Herfen. And so that Alfa Romeo then looking in a very good spot versus then the cars behind. But again, we've got to keep on mentioning it because someone will forget about it at some point, I'm sure, and it might be me. That Flex, of course, does have those hard tyres, which will be a factor later on in this race. Now, whether or not Ben and Safso and the rest of them can take those relatively fresh mediums all the way to the end here is up for a bit of debate, but I would suspect that that's not going to be the case. They will have to pit again. So then it's going to be a question of, well, hard tyre runner with a good 20 or 25 seconds or so in terms of distance to the cars behind, and with very old hard tyres versus what could potentially be fresh softs by the end of this one. Who would you put your money on, Badger, in that particular scenario?
Mr. Dale's out! Oh, he broke his promise!
Oh,
is that a safety
dear.
car? It is! It is another safety car, Mr. Dale!
And there he is. Lost it on
That
the
is
exit
on
of
the
turn number
exit.
1.
Yeah, there's on the exit of turn 1. He spun to the inside and into the wall. That is a race over for him. Oh, my. And I tell you what, one driver who definitely benefits from that is Kerbs, who is in the pits right now. And he is serving a 5-second... No, he's not serving a 5-second penalty because he got, I think, a 5-second penalty on entry.
Yeah, absolutely.
For speeding in the pit lane, so... He can't serve that, or is it gone now? Let's see. It's going to take a moment for it to clear. No, he still has that 5-second. Yeah, that is a bit painful when you get a 5-second penalty on pit entry. But yeah, he definitely is now on fresh mediums that will make it to the end from here. Who else will pit from the leaders? Because nobody's caught up to the safety car yet. So everyone's still got the choice. Who's going to come in? Van Herfen almost has to, but he doesn't have the proper tires for it. Softs won't last. He doesn't have any mediums anymore. Everyone's coming in. Yeah, it's going to be busy. Safso's going to get held up. Double stack for McLaren. Double stack for Alpine. Tom, this time not playing around. He's had enough the first time. Meraki staying out. He's going bold.
Aiden Gullis stays out as well.
And El Taco Man 2. And Infratic.
Very
and
interesting times. Let's take a look at those tyre ages for those at the front of the field staying out, and they're all 11 lap old. They are not, well, with the exception of the leader who's 10 laps old, but who's counting at that point? But it's, you know, it's an interesting play from them. You could maybe argue that those mediums have still got plenty of life in them. The cars are, of course, lighter. The track is more rubbered in now, and the temperatures will be coming down as well due to it now being under night sky as opposed to under the sunset. But given all that we've really seen from today, really, I mean, lots of drivers opting for fresh tyres. They've been able to then go really fast on those fresh tyres. And speaking of those fresh tyres, I've just noticed we've got both Tom in the Alpine and Ben Daly in the McLaren going for a set of soft tyres. So what do you make of that then? A gamble to have another safety car later on, do you reckon? Must be, surely.
It has to be. Soft tyres last 17 laps around here. Mediums do 31, so they easily make it to the end. Softs last 17, so you can make it. You can, but it's very much a can't. Like you need a bit of tire saving or you need to play it super risky and hope you just don't get a puncture towards the end. Those are your only two options. Other than that, it's just not going to work. Or safety car, as you mentioned, and pit again for softs, hoping that everyone else is going to follow them in for softs as well, which they just might. I think you need a very peculiarly placed and timed safety car at that point. What I mean by that is you really only have a window that goes, I would say, from lap 43 to lap 50, maybe 49, 50, where it would make sense potentially for you to swap to softs no matter what tire you're on. Other than that, I think once you're past lap 50 and the safety car comes out, there's not enough laps left. Track position at that point then matters more. And if it's before lap 43, the soft tires are just going to fall off a bit too early, and mediums are probably going to be better. So, yeah, this is a tricky one. We see a lot of different strategies. Top 4, 12-lap-old mediums now, bunch of safety car laps in there. They might actually make it to the end. Then 2 hard runners behind that because they didn't have any mediums left, it seems, in Van Heffen and Flexi, who Flexi clearly, apparently, went for the harder tire allocation, which is not something I would ever recommend, because the hard tire is just never good anywhere. Even in 100% races, it's not. But he
what if you were
decided
trying to use it as a hammer?
He had 2 sets of hards now, so he was able to switch from one set of hards to another, which is not something you normally can if you go for balance or softer tire allocation. And then we got Tim Marduk on the softs, who will struggle towards the very end if there's not another safety car. So everything's going crazy right now. Everything's going nuts. We have 1, 2, 3, really 4, because a bunch of drivers pitted for mediums as well. We have 4 different strategies. The question is just, which one's going to work out? I don't really know.
No, it's going to be an interesting one. I mean, obviously, we've had only 3 safety cars. I say only. 3 safety cars would be an enormous incident in real Formula 1, but of course, this being the virtual world, 3 safety cars, not that bad. So 3 safety cars so far. That does mean that we've got at least 1 more to go in terms of an allocation, if you like. I mean, let's be honest, we probably will get another one at some stage. But yes, I mean, so it's one of those things where if you gamble and you gamble correctly, then the rewards could be numerous. In the form of 25 points, in fact, that numerous. But in terms of then what we're seeing here, I mean, if everybody suddenly starts to behave, then as you rightly say, those on the softs are going to really, really struggle. You look at then the fact that we've got some drivers then at the head of this field right now who have got these much, much older tyres on the car. They're going to be at big risk of being overtaken very quickly indeed by those from P5 downwards. And then for poor old Spinala, those tyres have been Spinala'd plenty of times enough that they're not going to be necessarily 13 laps old, but maybe just about 15, 16 laps old in terms of the amount of damage that's been done to them. But it's something that they'll have to just keep an eye on, and as they go, I think that anybody who's currently on laps with a double-digit life on them will need to pit again before the end of this race. And so it just depends as to whether or not you find the opportunity to do that.
I disagree. I think the drivers that are on double-digit tire life right now, because those tires now have 2 safety car stints in them, 2 3-lap safety cars, so 6 laps of safety cars, effectively 12 laps become 8, 13 laps become 9. And at that point, the tires will make it, I think. In what condition is a different question, but below 70%, they're not going to puncture. It's going to be around 65% tire wear, which is not going to be great. The tires aren't going to feel any good, but they will make it. So it's more so the soft runners. Tiamat Marduk and Tom. Tiamat Marduk could have switched to a set of mediums, by the way. He has a 6-lap old medium set that's really only, as I mentioned earlier, about 4 laps old because 3 of those laps were under safety car. He could have used that. He went for softs instead. Don't think it was the right call. but we're getting ready for the restart here. Meraki leading the field. He decides when to go, and he goes now.
Goes very early indeed. Away goes the Williams, and they are trying to get as much daylight, or nightlight as it turns out, between themselves and those cars behind. They've got El Taco Man behind, then Hayden Gullis, then Infratic, and then come those drivers on those tyres that are significantly younger. And so here they come through now. Then in this contact at the back, that's Spinala doing exactly as the name implies, and down the order into the first corner then. Whether they've been hit from behind or made contact, or whether that's just been a big issue there, but up the inside with a twitching back end as they go through. That then is Flexi trying to get the move done on the McLaren and the Alfa Romeo ahead of them. Doesn't quite work out for them, and in fact allows the McLaren of Ben Daly to come on through then into 5th place, and that then means they're now ahead essentially of the queue of those fresh tyres. So that then puts them in the best position to try and go chasing on after those race leaders currently. And with all that being said, with those soft tyres on board, they're going to have to hope for another safety car at some point if they want to make sure they both get to the end of the race and get there with a 3-second gap to the car behind. But for the time being, they're going to give us some action on board then with the McLaren as they go deep into the brakes there, up the inside, and get another move done on the Red Bull of Infratic. Very easy in the end for them. No disrespect to Infratic, but when you've got that big a tyre life difference, that's then where it's going to be really shining through. Through the next few corners, we're able to stick nice and close to the back of the Mercedes in front. You can see tyre marks on the ground there as the Mercedes went through, so small lock up on the front right for them. And now then, as we go through this final sector here, we're going to see just how well that McLaren can stay balanced in the hands of the wily Australian. And then as they go through the final turn then, let's see if they're able to make something happen, even down into turn number 1 here possibly. Overtake is being used, you can see there on the dashboard, but it might be being used in the Mercedes as well, because no difference as they head down towards turn number 1, but great difference on traction and mid-corner speed there as they go up the hill now, through turns 2 and then 3 just coming on after, and now then down towards turn number 4, bit of a lift there from Daly, but now as we go back to the off-board shot, up the inside they go, and this one is where the move is done. They get that McLaren past and up into P3 in this race. Great bit of driving so far from Ben Daly.
Yellow flag, Spinella retiring in the pit lane. That will not cause a safety car. Normally, you never know, in Abu Dhabi, safety cars come out for all kinds of reasons. So, all the throwbacks in 2021 are just great. I love doing that. Best part of being a commentator, ladies and gentlemen. But I tell you this right now, Meraki is not going to be happy right now, because he was hoping that the cars behind him, El Taco Man, Hayden Gullis, and Infratic, the cars that stayed out with him, that they were going to be a better buffer for the horde, for the oncoming horde of drivers that have pitted. We have another yellow flag.
That's Vince round. Vince's round. Yeah, we just saw them in the background, a shot there as we were focusing instead on the car just ahead of their teammate, that being Hayden Gullis, I think. No, that's Bushy Ants. I do apologise. Hayden's a bit further up the way. But yeah, they were just ahead of their teammate, managed to get a great move done around the outside. And then, as all that happened, just in the background, their teammate went around. Now down towards turn number 1, it looks as though Bushy Ants might have another go here, this time on Infratic, and they give them a bit of a dummy, really. They make Infratic go very deep in turn number 1, then through 2, they're alongside, through 3, they're still alongside here. Mercedes versus Red Bull at Abu Dhabi on a late lap after a safety car. You'd never hear it before, but this time the rule book is flipped, and the Mercedes goes up the inside, gets the move done on the Red Bull, and now will go chasing on after the Alpine of Tom just in front of them. Meanwhile, up at the top end of the order, Tiamat Marduk has now passed the Ferrari of El Taco Man and now has their sights set on the lead car of Merrick, and that's then a half-second gap or so between them and the Williams. So the Williams is going to have to do an awful lot of fighting in the not-too-distant future with that soft-shod McLaren.
Yeah, and that's what Meraki really didn't want, is to see that McLaren in the rearview mirror. As I said, the buffer of El Taco Man, of Hayden Gullis and Infratic completely used up. In fact, Infratic is getting mugged here into the final sector on the left-hander by 2 cars at once. Both Safso and Tom go past him, and Tiamat Marduk is all over the rear of that Williams. Difference in tyre life of 10 laps. On top of that, different compound, and Tiamat Marduk is flying right now. There should be potentially another fastest lap, and indeed, it's not 26.8.
Oh, it is.
But he was only 400ths away from getting, from beating his own fastest lap here, and he is quick.
Very quick indeed, as you'd expect. A quick driver, quick tyres underneath them, and a car that's probably well set up too. Down in towards the hairpin they go, not going for the move just yet. They go a bit deeper, a bit later on the brakes, get that corner then squared off nicely, get the late apex to drive out as fast as they possibly can, and then with DRS open, it's child's play for Ben Daly as they take the lead in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. All the way down into the chicane they will go, the red light flashing on the back of their car to indicate they've used an awful lot of ERS, but now they've got to lean on the tyres. Now they've got to hope there's a safety car later on to then allow them to get onto a set of tyres that will make it to the end. Now they've got to really use these softs, trying to get that 3-second gap in case that does not happen, and then try and protect that lead as best they can.
Yeah, that is the plan right there for Tim Marduk. He has to use the final sector right now to make sure that he pulls enough of a gap to Meraki. Half a second right now. It needs to increase here. This is the tire sector right there. First and second sector, mostly straight line speed. There's only a couple of corners. First sector's only 18 seconds long. It's by far the shortest sector here. Middle sector is quite long, but mostly dominated by straight line speed. The final sector is where the tires come alive. And Tiamat Marduk is over a second away from Meraki. That is huge. He needs that gap. He does not want to give Meraki any DRS right here. That would be the end of his hopes. If Meraki can somehow stay with that McLaren, it would be game over for the Aussie as we have another yellow flag. This is for Punju in the final corner, but he is going again. So everything fine. Shouldn't be a safety car whatsoever, and no DRS for Meraki.
No DRS for them, but certainly DRS for Tom 97. And so they then get that Alpine getting closer and closer to the back of the Williams. They can practically smell the gearbox at this point. And as they go through the chicane here then, they have gotten that car pulled over to the left-hand side more than the Williams, more traction underneath them. And now they're going to have a better run down the back straight as a result, being able to straighten out earlier, get the power on earlier. And now with the DRS open as well, they go up the inside into the left-hander. And that's another place gained for the Alpine driver. Now then, they are perhaps in the best position of anybody in the field, because those mediums could go to the end, and for Tiamat Marduk, those softs might go to the end, but they'll have to baby them there. They won't be able to carry as much speed as they would like, and so as a result, through time penalties or through a move on track, Tom 97 currently looking like your eventual race winner here today.
Yeah, it's going to be a very tricky situation for Tiamat Marduk. Right now it looks good, but how long does that remain? That is the question. He would prefer, I think, a safety car right around now, really. Maybe a couple more laps to make sure that the gaps increase a bit further, but not many more laps. I think around lap 46, 47 would be the ideal time for another safety car for Tiamat Marduk to make sure that he can pit again for softs and just do the same thing that he just did, because right now Tom 97 is doing fantastically. In fact, last lap, Tom 97 was faster than Tiamat Marduk, only by 0.2, but he was faster. And in part, that was, of course, due to the DRS that he got off of Meraki. But at the same time, he's threatening Tiamat Marduk right now. The gap is under a second, and the difference in ERS is startling, to say the least. We're talking a difference of 55% of battery charge. Tiamat Marduk on 10, Tom 97 on 65. He's got so much battery charge left, he could just power down the straights and he would easily catch up to Tiamat Marduk. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's using his battery incredibly wisely. And that's the difference between a league racer who is so experienced on this game, such as Tom 97, and one of the fastest content creators who might not have that experience on ERS management as Tiamat Marduk. Tom actually now with 60% advantage. He's increased his advantage because he only uses the battery in the right spots, and he will have DRS now, and that is the worst that could have happened to Tiamat Marduk, who is now being caught by a driver on medium tires when he is on soft. So that's why I said it would have been better for Tiamat Marduk to go for the used mediums that had 6 laps in them, 4 if you exclude safety car laps, or you take into account safety car laps, it would have been better. Here goes Tom 97 to take the lead. And the strategy for Tiamat Marduk comes completely undone.
So there we go then. It has all unravelled for the Australian, and even a small, well, I say a small, an enormous bit of oversteer there coming out the corner. Almost curtains as far as their race is concerned there then. And so now they're going to have to try and reevaluate here. Hope still for that safety car to come along, but hopefully not too late into this race to allow them to still build up 3 seconds worth of gap to the cars behind. But then, of course, allow them to change those tyres too. So that's the case back there. But down rather, in P5. As Tom 97 sets the new fastest lap of this race then and gets outside of DRS range from the McLaren. We can then see that Van Heffen here is still looking in a very good spot in this Alfa Romeo, and they're catching up to the back of Merrick here. Merrick, of course, with the significantly older tyres, we can see that there. 10 laps older, so double the age, and of course being the medium compound, they will be suffering an awful lot more than hards would at the same age, and so we expect to see a good drive here from Van Heffen. If they can get the exit right, if they can get the DRS all the way down the back straight here, then there's the chance into the chicane. If not, then they just need to be nice and close as they follow through, but it looks like it's going to happen plenty early. Here they go then, up the inside goes Van Heffen, up into P4 in this race, and on those hard tyres, it was all but assured. Up and past the Williams they go, puts them down to P5, and Van Heffen up into P4. But the Williams is not necessarily out of this one just yet. They've got DRS open on the back of that car. There might still just be the small essence of grip left in those tyres, and as it is, they come close, but no cigar, in fact. So they go around the left-hander, and they have to tuck in behind instead of trying to go for a move on the Alfa Romeo. So then, as we keep an eye on this battle, we also want to just draw attention to elsewhere in this field, including the other Williams car. Curbs is in the wall in the third sector, and a safety car has come out as a result.
Yeah, the front wing completely off, and he actually himself retires. This wasn't the game forcing the retirement. He himself decides he's had enough. He retires from the race. And I don't know why. He could have just pitted for softs and get a new front wing, serve the 5-second penalty as well. He would have been penalty free.
He would.
This was sheer frustration from him. Oh, and Tom 97 might not get past the safety car here.
Nope, they're not going to. And I was about to say, you know, Ben Daly ended up coming into the pits just at the precise time, just as the safety car was called. They just managed to dive in. That has put Tom 97 in the absolute worst position. There might be a very, very quick driver, but can you overcome the fact that your rival is going to have laps 10, 11 laps younger than yours and are on the soft compound too? You add then into that then Flexi. Flexi is still, in my opinion, one of the standout performers here today. Look at this. Both Flexi and Ben Daly up by more than 10, well, more than 9 positions for both, but more than 10 positions for Flexi, up into P2 in this one. And Merrick also in an advantageous position there then. But looking at Merrick, they also have great tyre life as well. They've been able to use this safety car to their advantage and get themselves a new set of softs, as has everybody in this field, bar the top 2. So all of a sudden, Badger, the question I asked to you is how far down the order do these top 2 fall by the end?
It really is a difference of the tyres that they have, the compounds. For the hard tyres for Flexi, I think he won't stand a chance. I think it's going to be a bunch of places that he loses there. Could end up P6, P7. That's before penalties. For Tom 97, on the other hand, those mediums, 11 laps, again, discard 3 safety car laps that I always count as 1, because generally you get a third of the tire wear during a safety car lap. So 3 safety car laps make 1 proper race lap. So 9-lap-old mediums compared to all these soft runners. It really depends on how good Tom 97's defending is. I reckon he's still got a chance to win this race. I'm going to be bold here. I think he's still got a good chance to win this race. He might lose 2 or 3 places early on, but he can win those back later on. He's going to have to put everything into defense as long as he can. Once the first car is passed, he has to stay with that car as much as he can and not defend. If the second car goes through, that's not a problem. Again, you want to lose as little time as possible to that first car that went through. And then you just play the long game. You wait, and you wait for the laps to just wind down. And once you get to lap 54, 55, 56 maybe, that's when you start getting aggressive, because that's when your tires are going to be on the front foot again, and all these soft runners are going to be on the back foot.
Absolutely. Now, I want to draw everybody's attention to the driver currently in 4th place, Bushy Ants. Currently 4th there, 2 places down from their initial starting place, obviously, as you can see on the graphic on screen. But they are on those soft tyres, as is everybody else south of P2. And so, given that they do not carry any time penalties currently, if some danger, some massive problem befalls Tom, and we did see, of course, earlier on that Tom had a spin in the final corner, lost the car, and so they are not infallible. They are only human like the rest of us. They should be able to get to the end, hopefully, without any incident. But in case they do, or in case the tyre advantage for those behind is just too severe, then realistically, Bushy Ants is in the best position to actually go ahead and take the race win here today, because they crucially do not carry time penalties. 2 cars ahead of them do, and it's a bit easier for Ben Daly because they only have 3 seconds as opposed to the 6 for Liam at this point. Flexi at this point in time. And you can see then from the onboard of Tom 97 that brief shot of the safety car we saw going around the corner there. The lights are off, and it will be coming in at the end of this lap. So Tom now becomes the de facto safety car as we go back to the main action here. And let's then see how they're able to lead us away at the restart of this race. They need to make sure they don't, of course, go too early. If they do, then that's going to give everybody the chance on those quicker tyres behind them to get those tyres up to temperature, get the performance out of them sooner. And here we go then, ready once more for potentially a bit of carnage. Through the final turn, Tom takes them and floors it, and away we go once again here in Abu Dhabi. Ben Daly has a good restart, so too does Bushy Ants behind them. And then for De Heffen behind them, they have a bit more of a struggle. Van Heffen, I should say, that's where I was getting wrong. And they then end up having a bit of a terrible time of it. But for Ben Daly, they are not messing around. Up the inside already they go on Flexi, get P2 away from the AlphaTauri driver with those soft tyres, and not much time lost at all. The AlphaTauri being forced all the way off to the side, and that then means that they are now vulnerable, in fact, to the Mercedes driver that's currently coming alongside them there. Looks at how close they are, and the Mercedes gets on past Bushy Ants then up into P3 onto the podium here today. The highest driver placed with fresh tyres without any time penalties. They get a little bit of a tap up the back there from Van Heffen, who's trying to make their way through, and it's done! Carnage into the wall! Both the cars end up going into the wall there. That is Van Heffen and Flexi into the wall. And what had been an absolutely sensational race from Flexi comes down in a wall of tears. And oh dear, that then means that the fight at the front becomes that little bit more difficult for Tom, because now it's entirely soft tyre runners behind them. Ben Daly all the way up behind the back of the Alpine then, can smell the baguette coming out of the gearbox there. And as they then feel themselves going round the left-hander, up towards the last couple of corners, then this is going to be the crucial one. Do they manage to get the move done quickly? And if they do they manage to get 3 seconds ahead of the Alpine? Down in towards turn number 1 they go.
And for Tom 97, it is the worst that could have happened. Flexi literally lasted 1 sector ahead of Tiamat Marduk, and then that buffer was gone. Now the McLaren draped all over the rear of that Alpine. It's going to be an overtake around the outside. That is bold, but it's beautiful. Round the outside he goes and gets the job done. That is an incredible overtake. And now, as I said, Tom 97 needs to just be... Oh, no,
it's not the overtake done. Absolutely not. I was going to say, Tom has had some great traction on exit, maybe some ERS as well. We saw how well they were able to save it earlier on. And now then they hang Ben Daly all the way to the inside. Ben Daly isn't going to have any of that, though. And he muscles and barges and bashes his way. And that's then opened the door to Bushy Ants. Bushy Ants is now on the outside of this group. It's 3 wide. And now as they head down towards the left-hander, it's going to be Daly versus Bushy Ants versus Tom. Round the outside, the McLaren goes, trying to keep their foot in it, trying to find that grip on the outside, that cambered corner. They're still side by side as they head up now, but finally, a blessed moment of relief there for Ben Daly as they get that McLaren ahead of the Alpine. They've got the tyre advantage. They now need to disappear into the distance in these final 8 laps to make sure that they can take the win here today. But Bushy Ants, of course, is now the driver who's going to be next on our radar as far as trying to get themselves by Tom is concerned. If they can get this one done and then keep relative pace with Tiamat Marduk, it will be a Mercedes win here today, not a McLaren one.
Yeah, that's why I say Tom 97 needs to just stay. Bushy Ants needs to stay behind Tom 97 because any kind of battling will lose them time. DRS enabled, and that works in Tom 97's and in Bushy Ants' favor because now Tom 97 will have the DRS off of Tiamat Marduk and will try to stay close to that McLaren with the help of DRS. They're all using the same levels of battery at this point. There's not much saving anymore in this. But will the DRS still be available for Tom 97 after this chicane? That is the question, and the answer is, I think, yes. And definitely yes. Oh, that is huge. But here comes Bushy Ants, trying to make the move happen on Tom 97 around the outside.
They saw what happened the previous lap.
Yeah, he tried it once with the cutback, it didn't work, and this time he tried it the long way around, didn't work either.
I think that they should have...
He's starting to run out of options, he's starting to run out of answers here.
He should have just stuck himself a bit closer to the Alpine. He gave too much space to the Alpine. He was therefore way too far off to the side. He will be picking up marbles, there'll be all sorts of things, and just a longer line as well. And so that then is a bit of a tactical bumble there from Bushy Ants, but as they then go through the final turn, then it's got to be done all once more. So Tom 97 then still trying their absolute best here to stick with Ben Daly. Ben really desperately needs to start dropping them sooner rather than later, because that DRS toe, that ability to just stay ahead, and Ben Daly sets a new fastest lap of the race just to try and ensure that that happens, is what is allowing Tom to drag themselves and the rest of this grid along and threaten Daly with that 3-second time penalty that is looming over their head like the sword of Damocles. So out of the left-hander they go, down the back straight once more. No DRS crucially this time for Tom 97, and so as they start to go down this back straight, then I would imagine the Alpine is burning all of the DRS they possibly can. But look at that there. When we see from the nose cone of the Mercedes, that is a flashing red light on the Alpine. So that means they've got less than 10% ERS remaining, and they are burning it as much as they possibly can. They've done it to good effect there. They've gotten they're able to get the DRS open again, which might give them a stay of execution versus Bushy. But Bushy is not going to let this one go lying down. They're going to try it around the outside once again. They need to stick closer this time to then have more of a chance. And this time, they have done so. They're doing exactly what they saw Ben Daly do a few laps ago. Up the inside, into the right-hander. And that is another move gained from the Mercedes in their chance to try and get themselves this race win here today, ahead, of course, of Tom 97. Tom 97 falling back down this order, and the next one who's going to threaten them is Merrick in the Williams. But the question now remains, will Bushy Ants be able to keep these tyres alive and get enough lap time out of them to stay nice and close to the back of Team Marduk? That is the question. Through turn number 1 they go then, and it is reasonably close. 1.2 seconds goes down to 0.8 of a second there between the two of them. So this, I think, will give DRS to the Mercedes, and then could even potentially threaten an on-track overtake here versus the McLaren.
It's going to be close on DRS. I don't think that Bushy Ants has it. I think on the line I saw 1.1. So no DRS to Bushy if I saw that correctly. And that means Tom 97 now bailed out a little bit here, being able to get closer to Bushy Ants and stay with him just a little bit. But again, if you're Tom 97 right now, you're playing the long game here. Tiamat Marduk will not be able to drive away 3 seconds.
We just we just cut there to El Taco. They're trying to make it work around the outside in the chicane. You just immediately, as we cut to them, you just heard an enormous clunk of carbon fiber hitting carbon fiber as they went into the back of racing in the Alfa Romeo. And now then, they're right tucked up behind Infratic as well. This is a battle here for this latter end of the points, really. And what is available there, these drivers will be fighting as hard as those at the front, surely. But now then, as we continue to watch this battle unfold, we can see then a bit further up the road that Safso has gotten very close to the back of Tom, just in front. And Tom right up the back of Merrick, who in turn is right up the back of Tom 97, Tom's teammate, of course. So, 5 laps to go then, as our race leader crosses the line. And this then is one of these things where we just need to keep an eye on all that's going on here. Yellow flags for Taco and Racing once again. And and the Alfa Romeo is round. There are yellow flags in the first sector, but I don't think that should be a safety car. Green flag once again. No front wing on the Ferrari. And for the Alfa Romeo, I think, as well. Let's just cut to them briefly to have a look. There's no damage on that Alfa Romeo, curiously enough, but that was a battle that had been boiling over, and that is how it boiled over there. And coming off the worst for wear, both cars, in terms of position, of course, for racing, but in terms of overall damage and pace and chances of scoring any points at all in this race here today, very much the Ferrari.
Yeah, meanwhile, Tom 97 still trying to hold on. I think he did get DRS again. Yes, he did. And I can't tell whether Bushy Ants has it, but he should. Yeah, he does. So now it's all getting closer and closer together. Tom 97 now is when the time for patience has passed. And he has to start getting aggressive, because now the medium tires that he's on should be somewhat similar to the soft tires that the cars in front are on. So this is going to be a manic last 4 laps of this race. Let's hope we don't get a safety car. This is the last lap where a safety car can get called out. Lap 55. On lap 56, a safety car can't come out because it would stay out for lap 57, and the game doesn't allow for that. So if a safety car comes out, it would be this lap, or we're going to the end this way. And Tom97 is staying in the DRS of Bushians, who himself is in DRS of Tiamat Marduk. And that's what we want to see. We have 6 cars, really, in the DRS train. Even Safso might have a chance here to get something going and gain a couple of places, as he's battling with Tom, actually, and he's going past.
He certainly
Tom with
has.
A horrible exit.
Absolutely. The McLaren moves up into P5 and now just needs to catch up onto the back of Merrick. Then they can tow along in that train there, and potentially you could see Ben Daly, their teammate, falling off of the podium and even behind their teammate if things all finish closely enough together here. Speaking of Ben Daly, they are just keeping ahead of Bushy Ants for the time being, but you can see there the Mercedes takes a much, much tighter inside line there through the left-hander. That then gives them a great exit and a great run, and I think then that's going to make things just a little bit more difficult for Ben to try and get that gap opened up. It's been a great drive from them here today, coming all the way from P13 to now be in the lead, making good use of strategy, good use of overtaking in particular, especially on that first lap too. But it is all looking like it's falling apart the last hurdle here because of the fact they're carrying this 3-second time penalty. 3 laps to go then, with the McLaren leading the way on track, then Bushy Ants, then Tom, then Merrick, then Safso, and then Tom again, with Emphatic in P7, 2.3 seconds back from that lead group.
Yeah, 3 laps to go. This is going to be crazy. The question for Bushy Ants is that he has to start to game plan a bit. Does he even want to overtake Tiamat Marduk? How risky does he want to be? Because at the end of the day, Tiamat Marduk's got a 3-second time penalty, and there is no risk of stewards taking that penalty away, because we don't have stewards. What you see is what you get, and you know, the drivers act on gentleman's agreement. But any penalty that the game gives, you're unlucky. Even if it's wrongfully given, we don't take those away. So what you see is what you get. And so for Bushy, he has to think twice about whether he even wants to overtake, because he knows he's in the lead right now. But at the same time, there's a Tom97 behind him, and if he doesn't overtake, maybe on lap 57 or 58, he leaves himself vulnerable to that Alpine.
Absolutely, and so as we keep watching here then, this has been a great bit of driving from these guys up at the top end especially, but one driver I want to just make note of is Flexi. Flexi just now 2.9 seconds off the back of Dirk Chocolate, and is still pushing hard there after going all the way down to the back of the order, being taken out a little bit earlier on. They've now been able to get themselves on the fringe of points once more after having started at the back of this race all the way up to the front with some good strategy and good overtaking, and then of course caught in that incident earlier on that we described on the last safety car restart. So things pretty close then amongst these drivers here. That being said though, they've suddenly lost a huge amount of time. Someone who's not lost a lot of time though is the car ahead of them. Dirk Chocolate is now right tucked up behind that guy Vince. And as they go through the left-hander then of turn number 4, this is then going to give Dirk a good drive onto the back straight here. DRS open for both cars as they are nice and close to the back of Hayden Gullis at the moment in that Mercedes. And so will there be any move there? I tell you what, there might be a move up at the front here, because look at how close Bushy Ants is. Bushy Ants is not going for the opportunity to just take up the place on time penalties, but instead goes round the outside of Ben Daly in the left-hander, and they get that position. A Mercedes makes a pass on the second last lap of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and they now will try and get themselves far and far away from any potential threats that they face from behind, from the likes of Ben Daly, from the likes of Tom97, and from Merrick as well. We get a new fastest lap from El Taco Man, and this has been the absolute dream of dreams ending to this race for the Mercedes driver.
Yeah, so far, but there's still one more lap to go. Let's not forget, 1 lap to decide the winner here. The final lap. Where have we seen that before? Granted, we had a couple more laps before the safety car, but let's not talk about that. Tom97, I think, is still not out of this. 8 tenths, 7 tenths the gap to Bushy Ants in the lead, and he's got a car in between, but a car on penalties. If he can get past Tiamat Marduk, the tyres should be better now for Tom 97. He should have an advantage at this point on tyres compared to the car.
Really hustling that car as well. You could see out of the corner there, they've got the back end all stepping out everywhere. As now then, Ben Daly is getting nice and close, trying to keep all that speed that they can, and Tom makes a mistake! We said it before, they're not a god, they are human like the rest of us, and they've made a mistake to prove it. Tom 97 goes very deep indeed into the chicane, and that then means that all chances of winning this race have slipped away from them. Not only that, but all the confusion has then allowed this move to happen, and now around the outside, the McLaren is going to try then. Safso trying to send it all the way around the outside of Tom 97 after having made the move on Merrick before, but they don't quite manage it. Now then, Bushy Ants still at the head of this field, still leading Tiamat Marduk at this point in time, and as they start to wind through the last couple of corners, they have redeemed themselves after a great qualifying, falling down the order, and now, as they come through the last couple of corners, it is Bushy Ants who wins the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix here in the Creator Series. Just behind them on circuit is Tiamat Marduk, but after penalties will drop down the order. Tom 97 gets the place in second position, and bizarrely, amazingly, Ben Daly manages to stay on the podium after their teammate does that across the line.
Yeah, there was something happening in the final sector. I think Safso and Meraki got together. Safso spun, lost 3 seconds, and then Meraki got away with that, but I think Meraki spun Safso around. And as I said, the drivers operate on gentleman's agreement. I think Meraki did the right thing, realized that he was at fault for that one, and let Safso back through. So I want to give the gentleman's award of the race to Meraki for that decision to let Safso back through. Safso, of course, was frustrated. That's why he crashed across the line into the wall there, but that was after the line. That didn't cost him any time beforehand. There was into the right-hander where you have to start braking as you're turning. In that right-hander, there was contact between Meraki and Safso, and that's what did all of that. And that's what helped Tiamat Marduk in the end get a podium and get away with nothing more than a black eye out of this situation of having a 3-second time penalty. But Bushy Ants is the winner of the Creator Series Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
He certainly is. The game thinks that Driver of the Day is Tiamat Marduk. Let us know who you think Driver of the Day is. It is pinned in the Twitch chat over on our Twitter. So go ahead and tell us what you think of that one. And so Bushy Ants then comes out onto the podium, gloves still on, steering wheel in hand, and celebrating as they rightly should. So then, after that one, we'll give you a full rundown of the order in not too distant future here. But that then is a well-deserved first place for the Mercedes driver. Great bit of authoritative overtaking. Good use of speed there, and ultimately coming through into a very, very good finish. So, it is Mercedes, Alpine and McLaren on the podium here today. I think if you had predicted that at the start of this one, you might have gotten 1 or 2 of those right. And there we are then. We'll get the full rundown of the results just now then. So, confirmation then that Bushy Ants is your winner of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix in the Creator Series. Joining them on the podium is Tom Martinez and then Tiamat Marduk as well. Then, from 4th down, we have Safso, Meraki, Tom, Hayden Gullis, Dirk Chocolate, Infratic, Dat Guy Vince, Flexi, Racing, Punju, Van Heffen, Just Hunt, El Takuman, Curbs, Spinala, Dale, and then Just One Ale at the end of the race there. The last 4 cars DNFing from this one. So there we are then. That has been the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And, well, I mean, as a first race to be called in as the super sub for Mr. Morgan, I'm quite happy with that one. That was a good race. As they always are in the Creator Series, of course. But, Badger, kind of just talk us through that one then. Give us a bit of a rundown from your perspective as to who you felt did especially well out of that and who is going to be really, really punching the wall.
That's a good question. I think with everything that went on, I just realized something in the final results. Oh boy, there's gonna be more banter going on in Red Bull. I just saw that.
I think I know what you've seen.
Dirk Chocolate outscored Infratic once again by another 2 points. So Dirk Chocolate now on 20 points.
And I'll tell you something else as well about that. That was all due to Infratic's 3-second time penalty. They
Yep.
finished 2 seconds behind on the basis of a penalty. So, dear oh dear, for the driver wanting to lay claim to, number one Red Bull driver, that's not the sort of mistakes you want to be making. Christian Horner will be very upset.
Yeah, certainly. But I think the driver that did best, looking at everything that happened this race, and there was a lot. I would say in terms of really everything, the way he drove, strategy, and he was just caught out a bit badly with the last safety car, was Tom 97. He could have won this race. If that safety car comes out, I think 5 seconds earlier, I think he's going to dive into the pit. But because it came out as he was already past pit lane entry, he couldn't. There was no chance for him to come in. So it was a very unfortunate situation. He fought valiantly to bring that car home, to bring the win home potentially, but in the end it was P2. Yeah, sometimes there are those moments, but he did incredibly well. He was, I would say, the fastest driver all day today, and it didn't work out in the end for him in terms of safety car timing, really. Not just strategy was good, it was just the safety car timing that screwed him over.
Absolutely, yeah. I would agree with that assessment. I think it was a great race to watch here today and to commentate alongside yourself in the virtual commentary box as well. It's been very good fun indeed. You never know. Maybe they'll ask me to come back. And if they do, I'll say, can I have Badger, please? But there we go. So, thank you very, very much, everybody, for watching. Of course, we've had great fun. I hope that you've had great fun. It's been another great round in the Creator Series. I'm sure that you will join us next time. Follow the channel if you did enjoy that and you're not currently following. And if you're not, what on earth are you doing here? The race is over. Go to bed or whatever it happens to be that you're doing this time of day. But for all of you, wherever you are in the world, wherever you're watching, thank you very much for watching. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night.